On a stormy night, a lone female swordswoman stands in front of a group of black-clad killers. Their leader points straight at her and orders them to kill. Killing intent clashes from both sides, the air tense like an incoming storm. But the woman completely ignores them, not even bothering to take them seriously. She blurs forward in an instant, forcing the black-clad group to instinctively step back. A few flashes of sword light cut through the rain. When she stops, all enemies are already dead behind her. That woman is Nanggong Qiu, the top female war general of Great Xia. At that moment, a burly man kicks open the gate and steps out with overwhelming pressure, staring coldly at her. To him, the title of #1 female war general means nothing. He is the Baimong Junshen, who coldly claims that without the Great Snow Dragon cavalry conquering 16 cities and slaying countless Baimong experts, Nanggong Qiu would never have the right to reach this place. Nanggong Qiu raises her sword and declares that defeating him is her final test to join the Great Snow Dragon cavalry and become the Sword Master's guard. In her heart, she also plans to end her engagement with Lu Wuwei, whom she considers useless. The moment she finishes speaking, she turns into a streak of light and attacks. Baimong Junshin only gives a cold snort. He easily catches her blade with 2 fingers. Then his other hand strikes out to suppress her. Nanggong Qiu is instantly smashed into the ground in pain. Her sword is taken, and he mocks that the weapon is good, but the owner is not worthy. Blood trickles from her lips as she realizes her dream of joining the Great Snow Dragon cavalry may be over. She slowly closes her eyes, still barely conscious. Seeing her powerless body, Baimong Junshin is filled with lust and decides not to let such beauty go. Suddenly, the sword in his hand begins to tremble slightly. He turns around and sees a long-haired young man behind him, with a cold expression, calmly calling the sword back. In an instant, the sword breaks free from Baimong Junshin's grip and flies to the young man, shocking him. The young man catches it, swings once, and takes a battle stance. He coldly declares that the Sword Master of Great Xia has come to send Baimong Junshin on his way. Hearing this, the man is struck like a bolt of lightning. He stares in disbelief, realizing the person before him is the Sword Master of Great Xia. Before he can finish speaking, a perfect arc of sword light slices across his neck. Blood erupts as he clutches his throat, trembling and trying to speak. He only wants to know the true identity of the one who killed him. Before his body collapses, the young man calmly answers, his name is Lu Wuwei. After speaking, he casually throws the sword to the ground. The sound wakes Nanggong Qiu from her fading consciousness. Through blurred vision, she barely recognizes Lu Wuwei's figure. At that moment, he has already turned away, thinking she had just broken through to War God level, and recklessly challenged Baimong Junshin to join the Great Snow Dragon cavalry. To him, it was nothing but impatience and overestimating herself. Still, he takes out a token and throws it to her. He says that since she tried this hard, she is allowed to join the reserve of the Great Snow Dragon cavalry. He tells her to take the token and report to the command office to complete registration. The scene shifts to a restaurant inside the city. Lu Wuwei is calmly enjoying a lavish meal. Eating scallion pancakes, he is surprised by how good the taste is, realizing food can really lift one's mood. While he eats, 2 beautiful girls enter the shop, excitedly talking about the midday news. One is Murong Shui, the Murong family heiress, and the red-dressed beauty beside her is Song Meiqiao from the Song family of Jiang City. Murong Shui brushes her hair back and says their idol Nanggong Qiu has defeated Baimong Junshin and joined the Great Snow Dragon cavalry. They choose a nearby table and sit down. The distance is close enough that Lu Wuwei overhears everything. Song Meiqiao excitedly praises Nanggong Qiu, saying the Great Snow Dragon cavalry is the strongest guard under the Sword Master, only for peak war gods, and yet Nanggong Qiu just broke through and joined it. Truly outstanding. Lu Wuwei calmly takes a bite of food and realizes that's what this is about. He casually takes another sip of beer. In his mind, Nanggong Qiu's current strength still isn't enough to reach his guard position, even in 10 more years without his guidance. He chuckles lightly, but Song Meiqiao hears it and gets instantly annoyed. She slams the table and demands what he is laughing at, insisting she is right. At that moment, Murong Shui pulls her friend and looks toward the entrance. Nanggong Qiu, the famous war goddess of Great Xia, has arrived with her guard Ni Xiaolong. Song Meiqiao's eyes light up with excitement seeing her idol in person. Nanggong Qiu ignores them and walks straight to Lu Wuwei, asking his name. She introduces herself, confident he must have heard of her reputation. Lu Wuwei does not respond and continues eating. Before he can react, Ni Xiaolong steps in and slices the table in half, sending dishes flying. She coldly demands respect for Nanggong Qiu. Lu Wuwei barely saves his last skewer and drink, then asks for an explanation. Nanggongqiu says she has already investigated him, including his background, in the Lu family of the capital. Song Meiqiao immediately calls him the rumored disgraceful pervert. Murong Shui confirms she has heard similar rumors. Nanggongqiu recounts that 7 years ago, he was expelled for humiliating a noble daughter of the Shu family. She adds that his father was also exiled because of him. Lu Wuwei stays silent, but his expression grows colder as he crushes the skewer in his hand. Nanggongqiu asks if all of it is true. For the first time, Lu Wuwei denies it. She throws an engagement document at him, saying their purpose today is to end it. The paper flies straight at him. It brushes past his face. The stain marks his cheek as she coldly declares she is here to break off the engagement. Song Meiqiao praises her boldly. Nanggongqiu then asks if he has anything to say. Lu Wuwei's aura suddenly turns terrifying. Even his breath shakes the surrounding space. A bottle on the table falls and shatters. Song Meiqiao thinks the place is shaking like an earthquake. Ni Xiaolong immediately grips her sword, sensing danger. She warns that a hidden expert is nearby. Nanggongqiu frowns and observes carefully. Lu Wuwei calmly wipes the stain from his face. The pressure suddenly vanishes, leaving Ni Xiaolong confused. Lu Wuwei inwardly smirks, having withdrawn his aura on purpose. Seeing his smile, Ni Xiaolong gets even more irritated and tells him not to be ungrateful for Nanggongqiu's visit. Nanggongqiu looks at him with disgust, saying he has already lost his chance in life. She steps forward and tells him to give up all illusions. Lu Wuwei finds her words ridiculous. She adds that she has passed the test and joined the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry Reserve. Lu Wuwei replies that she is only a reserve member, yet already so arrogant. Ni Xiaolong angrily says he doesn't understand what the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry represents. She explains it is founded by the Swordmaster of Great Xia, and only top war gods can join, each destined to be recorded in history. Nanggongqiu confidently places her hand on her chest, saying she is completely different from someone like Lu Wuwei, who just drifts through life, since she reached war god level at a young age, and was accepted by the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. Lu Wuwei calmly looks at her and asks if being acknowledged by the Swordmaster makes her that proud. Ni Xiaolong crosses her arms and raises her chin, saying his ignorance isn't worth discussing. She then proudly speaks about the legend of the Swordmaster of Great Xia, calling him a peerless genius whose sword Dao dominates the world, and no one dares claim to surpass. To her, being acknowledged by such a figure is the highest honor anyone could chase in a lifetime. Sitting there, Lu Wuwei lightly laughs and agrees it does sound worthy of pride. Nanggongqiu tells Nie Xiaolong that explaining anything to someone like Lu Wuwei is pointless, since the world of strong cultivators is beyond ordinary people's imagination. She has no idea the man sitting in front of her is the very swordmaster she admires, while Nie Xiaolong keeps boasting that Nanggongqiu is about to become a guard under the swordmaster. If that happens, the Nanggong family's status will skyrocket into the top forces of Great Xia. She mocks Lu Wuwei as a discarded man completely unworthy of standing beside Nanggongqiu, saying even if she married him, he wouldn't deserve it. Song Meiqiao immediately agrees, urging him to accept the breakup and stop dreaming about a world he doesn't belong to. After insulting Lu Wuwei, she quickly changes tone and introduces herself respectfully to Nanggongqiu as a fan from Jiang City. Nanggongqiu simply nods and gives a brief acknowledgement. At that moment, the engagement document in Song Meiqiao's hand is suddenly snatched by Lu Wuwei. He coldly declares that no one has the right to break off his engagement on their own. Only he can decide its end. As soon as he finishes speaking, he tears the document apart, scattering red paper fragments into the air. Even Nanggongqiu, who has always stayed composed, is shocked by his action. Lu Wuwei calmly congratulates her for becoming the one who got rejected by him, making her expression turn ugly instantly. Ni Xiaolong is about to attack, but Nanggongqiu raises her hand to stop her. She says this is just Lu Wuwei trying to salvage his last bit of pride. Before leaving, Nanggongqiu says she still feels slightly guilty about the breakup, and tells him to come find her if he ever runs into trouble. After they leave, Song Meiqiao and Murong Shui also look at him with disdain and follow behind. Lu Wuwei doesn't care at all, simply moves to another table and pours himself a drink, enjoying the quieter atmosphere. Not long after, a man in a black suit with a beard walks in, and Lu Wuwei instantly recognizes his identity. The man immediately kneels on one knee, calling himself the first commander of the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, here to meet the Swordmaster, and Lu Wuwei signals him to stand. The barbecue shop remains as crowded as usual. Lu Wuwei sits across from his subordinate and asks why he came. The man reports that Nangang Q's application to join has been submitted and asks whether it should be approved. Hearing this, Lu Wuwei's gaze turns cold. He says all previous favors he gave her will now be reduced. After a sigh, he states she is completely unqualified to become his personal guard. The commander is shocked, since no one has ever been rejected from the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry, yet Lu Wuwei decides she will be the first in its history. Meanwhile, on the way back, Nanggong Qiu and Nie Xiaolong walk slowly through the street. Nie Xiaolong suddenly notices something and speaks up. When asked if she feels cold, Nanggong Qiu simply replies that she is fine. Back at the restaurant, Lu Wuwei lets the commander sit and orders more barbecue, which the owner quickly agrees to. However, the commander still disagrees and says the decision should be reconsidered carefully. The Nangang family has already publicly announced her joining the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry and prepared a grand celebration in Jiang City. He shows an invitation card, saying he will bring 10 peak war gods of the Dragon Cavalry to attend. If she is suddenly removed now, she will become a laughingstock across Great Xia, and with her arrogant personality, she may do something unpredictable. Wu Wei lightly taps the table, clearly thinking things over, and decides to give Nanggong Qiu more time to observe the situation. He also makes it clear that if she keeps acting out of line in front of him, he will show no mercy. After speaking, he takes a long sip of beer. Seeing his subordinate still not leaving, he asks whether all matters regarding Long Qi have been fully handled. The man hesitates and calls out to him. Noticing his hesitation, Wu Wei gets annoyed and tells him to just speak directly. In the end, the subordinate takes out another red document and hands it over. The moment Wu Wei sees it, he is shocked as if struck by lightning. The subordinate explains this is an engagement arranged personally by the old sword master, since the family once owed him a favor, and it must be fulfilled. Wu Wei's face darkens as he complains about his master making decisions for him. When he opens the engagement letter, he is even more shocked to find his fiancée is the same obsessed girl who admired Nanggong Qiu yesterday. The next morning, at the Song Villa, Lu Wu Wei stands at the door and knocks heavily. Soon, an elderly white-haired man walks out, and Wu Wei greets him immediately. Realizing he is the son of an old friend, Song warmly welcomes him inside. Looking at the luxurious villa, Wu Wei silently marvels at the life of the rich. In the living room, Song Madame and Song Mei Chao are already seated, and Song introduces Wu Wei as his daughter's future fiancé. Song Mei Chao freezes in shock. She soon realizes he is the same man she mocked last night, while her father happily suggests they get to know each other and register the marriage soon. Song Mei Chao is stunned, and Wu Wei calmly says he did not expect them to meet again so soon. Seeing her reaction, Song asks if they already know each other, but she points at Wu Wei and mentions his Lu family background in the capital. Song Madame is shocked, realizing it is a prestigious great family. She immediately changes her attitude, thinking her daughter is lucky to be engaged to someone from such a powerful family. But Song Mei Chao quickly pours cold water on it, saying he is just an abandoned son of the Lu family, and he currently has no stable job. After hearing this, Song Madame steps back, her attitude completely changing. Song Mei Chao continues listing his bad rumors, saying he once did disgraceful things to a girl and was expelled from his family. Wu Wei can only sweat internally, realizing his fiancé has a deep prejudice against him. Song father seriously asks if it is true, and Song Mei Chao firmly says everything was told to her by Nanggong Qiu. Seeing the situation worsen, Wu Wei tries to explain there may be a misunderstanding, but Song Madame refuses to believe it, insisting Nanggong Qiu could not be wrong. She angrily points at her husband, saying marrying her daughter into such a family is like pushing her into a fire pit, and demands the engagement be cancelled. Song Mei Chao is secretly delighted, glad someone is finally on her side. Only Song father remains serious, believing in the character of Wu Wei's father and trusting his son is not as rumored. Hearing this, Wu Wei secretly laughs, surprised that his father's reputation is so useful. Despite his wife and daughter's objections, Song father insists that Wu Wei take Song Mei Chao to register the marriage. Even Wu Wei is a bit surprised, feeling everything is happening too fast. Song Mei Chao strongly refuses, saying she will never marry someone looked down upon by her idol. She hugs her mother and cries loudly, even saying she would rather die. Song father angrily shouts at her, not allowing such absurd words. Just as the atmosphere becomes tense, a well-dressed young man walks in and mocks the Song family's choice of son-in-law. He confidently suggests that instead of Lu Wu Wei, they should consider him as the better choice. Everyone pauses to sit and talk, while Song Madame becomes visibly happy upon seeing him. The young man, Zhao Ke, confidently reassures her that with him here, no one will let Song Mei Qiao suffer any grievance. Song turned to his wife and asked if she was the one who called Zhao Ke over, and Ma Rong did not even bother denying it. She glared at Lu Wuwei and openly voiced her objection. In her eyes, a man with a bad reputation, and nothing to his name, was unworthy of the Song family's daughter, making Wu Wei's expression darken. He stayed calm and explained that he had been framed back then. But Song Meijiao immediately rejected it, insisting that Nanggong Qiu's judgment could not be wrong. Zhao Ke seized the chance to throw in a few mocking remarks. Pretending to be kind, he patted Wu Wei's shoulder and said everyone makes mistakes as long as they change. But when it came to marrying Song Meijiao, he advised Wu Wei to give up. He even claimed that someone with Wu Wei's past was not qualified for her. Only then did Zhao Ke pull his hand back. Wu Wei brushed off his shoulder like dust and coldly asked what gave him the right to lecture others. Ma Rong instantly got angry and scolded him for disrespecting young Master Zhao. Zhao Ke acted generous and told her not to let a small matter affect her health. He then stood up and introduced himself as the chairman of the Zhao Group, with annual revenue worth hundreds of millions. He acted modest and said that although he was only slightly better than Wu Wei, the gap between them was actually impossible to compare. Seeing him go too far, Song immediately cut him off. He declared that the marriage between Wu Wei and Meijiao had been arranged long ago by him and Wu Wei's father, so it could not be changed casually. However, Ma Rong strongly disagreed and argued that marriage required equal status. In her view, a talented young man like Zhao Ke deserved her daughter, while marrying Meijiao to Wu Wei would ruin her future. Song began to hesitate as his daughter continued to object. Zhao Ke looked at Wu Wei with pure contempt. He said Wu Wei wanted to marry Meijiao, but had not even prepared a betrothal gift, showing no sincerity at all. After a clap from him, carts filled with valuable gifts were brought in, one after another, dazzling the Song family. Zhao Ke's steward read out the gift list, from rare antiques to major contracts from the Zhao Group. After showing off all the gifts, Zhao Ke smugly asked Song if he was satisfied. Ma Rong stared at the treasures before her and happily praised Zhao Ke, convinced her daughter would live a wealthy life with him. She then turned and pulled Wu Wei to his feet. She told him to give his seat to Zhao Ke because he had nothing worth comparing. But Wu Wei suddenly stopped her. He reached into his pocket and said that if Zhao Ke had not mentioned it, he would have forgotten his betrothal gift. A strange blue stone appeared in his hand, glowing with a mystical light, and he introduced it as the azure gold stone. Wu Wei said it was a rare treasure that even the ruler of Great Xia longed to possess, enough to change the fate of an entire family. Hearing that, Madame Song widened her eyes. Even Song Meijiao was stunned. Only Zhao Ke burst into laughter, as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. He mocked the claim, and said he had never heard of any treasure called the Azure Gold Stone. Ma Rong and Song Meijiao also shook their heads since it was their first time hearing the name. Seeing that, Zhao Ke laughed even harder, and claimed it was just a worthless rock that Wu Wei had exaggerated into a treasure. He pointed straight at Wu Wei and asked if he thought everyone was a fool. Wu Wei's gaze instantly turned cold as he ordered Zhao Ke to lower his finger. Enraged by the response, Zhao Ke raised his hand to slap him. But the moment he felt the terrifying aura from Wu Wei, he retreated in fear. Wu Wei calmly asked if he still wanted to make a move. Zhao Ke was left speechless as an overwhelming pressure filled his heart. Song Meijiao angrily rushed forward to question him, but Wu Wei stepped back first, while she loudly called him a fraud who only knew how to boast. Unable to hold back, she demanded an answer from her father and asked if he truly intended to marry her to such an arrogant man. Caught in the middle, Song could only cough awkwardly to hide his discomfort. Wu Wei, put the stone away. The bond between our families does not need gifts. Even if you came empty-handed, no one would blame you. Wu Wei silently looked at the blue stone resting in his palm. But in the next moment, Song Meijiao suddenly snatched the stone from his hand. Let me show you where this thing really belongs. Then she placed the stone under a nearby table leg. The shaky table instantly became steady as the stone fit perfectly. Wu Wei sighed. If the ruler of Great Xia saw this, he would probably cough blood from anger. Song stayed firm and turned to Zhao Ke, clearly rejecting him. The marriage had already been decided, and no more gifts were needed. Song Meijiao stomped her feet in rage and nearly lost control as she shouted at both her father and the world. Zhao Ke slowly pulled out a golden invitation card and interrupted everyone. Wait, take a look at this first. The moment Song saw it, he froze in shock. Zhao Ke explained that it was an invitation to the celebration banquet of war goddess Nanggong Qiu. While the Song family was being cornered by the Qiamen Chamber of Commerce, Song Mei Diao became so excited that she urged her mother to listen carefully. Zhao Ke grew even more smug and said that in 3 days, Nanggong Qiu's grand banquet would begin, and the Nanggong family had promised protection to anyone with a valid invitation. Song still looked suspicious and kept his guard up. He could not understand how Zhao Ke had obtained such an important invitation. Zhao Ke explained that his cousin was a young master of the Gao family in the capital, and his uncle served in the Great Snow Dragon banner, so the invitation came from that connection. Song Meidiao's eyes lit up as she was clearly stunned by those powerful ties. Madame Song smiled and gently pulled her daughter closer. Song Meidiao immediately gave a thumbs up as if she finally understood everything. She then persuaded her father that with the Song family being suppressed by the Qiamen Chamber of Commerce, Zhao Ke was their only hope. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhao Ke became even more proud, but Wu Wei suddenly snatched the invitation away. After one glance, Wu Wei declared it was fake. Song Meidiao exploded in anger and accused Lu Wu Wei of pushing the Song family toward ruin, while Zhao Ke panicked as the invitation was torn apart. He grabbed Wu Wei by the collar and demanded to know if he even knew what a real invitation looked like. Wu Wei only sneered with a look of contempt. He brushed Zhao Ke's hand away and calmly said it was just an invitation, nothing special. Then he pulled out an entire stack of identical invitations, as if they were worthless. Looking at the torn one on the floor, he casually remarked that calling such a thing rare was ridiculous. Song Meidiao's face turned red with fury. She slapped all the invitations from Wu Wei's hands and shouted at him for causing trouble. Then she demanded to know if he understood how important that invitation was to the Song family. She bent down and picked up a torn piece with trembling hands. To her, Wu Wei had just destroyed the Song family's last chance of survival. Song could only shake his head and sigh helplessly. He blamed Wu Wei for acting recklessly without thinking. Wu Wei did not know how to respond and looked completely wronged. After a moment, Song coldly announced that since the invitation was ruined, Song Meidiao would register her marriage with Wu Wei tomorrow. He looked directly at Wu Wei and placed his trust in him, hoping not to be disappointed again. Wu Wei chuckled and thought that at least one reasonable person still remained. Song Meidiao immediately exploded again and shouted for her father. Tears filled her eyes as she asked if he truly did not care about her opinion. Madame Song also tried to stop him, calling him too stubborn, but Song firmly ended the discussion. Zhao Ke gritted his teeth and shot a murderous glare at Lu Wu Wei. In the end, he left with a final remark and refused to stay any longer. Madame Song quickly called after him and tried to stop him. In the main hall, Song Meidiao stormed off while Wu Wei quietly followed behind. Wu Wei called out and told her to slow down. He even asked why she looked so unhappy on such a joyful day. Song Meidiao spun around and asked why he was following her. Wu Wei felt a strange emotion and casually replied, "You're my wife now. Who else would I follow?" Wu Wei pulled out the marriage certificate and calmly announced that they were now legally married. Song Meidiao instantly became furious and ordered him to shut up, strictly forbidding him from calling her his wife. She warned him not to think that marriage gave him the right to do whatever he wanted. He was not even allowed to enter her room. As she turned to leave, she declared that if her father ever changed his mind, she would divorce him immediately. Wu Wei simply shrugged and said everything would be easy if Song agreed to compromise. Song Meidiao tossed her hair and coldly replied that he should have realized that long ago. She confidently listed her achievements. She was young, the chairman of the Song group, and the #1 beauty in Jiangcheng, so it was normal for him to feel unworthy. Wu Wei only let out a small laugh. Annoyed, Song Meidiao demanded to know what was so funny, and Wu Wei mocked her by asking if that title was self-proclaimed. The remark made her face flush with anger. She ignored him and said she was heading to Nanggong Qiu's banquet. She still carried the repaired invitation, hoping it would work despite being damaged. Wu Wei calmly reminded her that the invitation was fake and would get her thrown out, but he could take her inside without one. Song Meidiao laughed in disbelief and assumed he was bragging again. She insisted the invitation came from Zhao Ke's cousin, so it could not be fake. Then she mocked him for claiming he could enter the banquet without an invitation and asked who he thought he was. Wu Wei answered with complete confidence, "Your husband." Still annoyed, Song Meidiao refused to argue further and got into her luxury car. The car quickly sped away. Wu Wei gave a thumbs up and said he would wait for the result before calling her wife again. At the Nanggong residence, Guests had gathered in huge numbers, and the grand atmosphere revealed just how extravagant the banquet was. When Nanggongqiu appeared, the entire hall erupted, as everyone was stunned by her overwhelming presence. At that moment, someone noticed the seats above and wondered who they were reserved for. Another person asked why there were only chairs and no one sitting there. Nie Xiaolong coldly replied that some questions should not be asked. Even Nanggongqiu had to stand, so they had no right to question it. Being invited was already a great honor. Nanggongqiu explained and signaled for Nie Xiaolong to clarify. The 10 seats were reserved for the 10 commanders of the Great Snow Dragon Banner. The guests were instantly shocked. They never expected such high-ranking generals to appear. Zhao Ke was also present and immediately pushed through the crowd, looking for a chance to stand out. He hurried over to congratulate Nanggongqiu, and he did not forget to shower her with praise. Nie Xiaolong looked at the crowd with disdain and thought they were far too shallow. He explained that every war god who joined the Great Snow Dragon Banner received similar treatment. He even revealed that Chu Tianbia, the first commander and personal guard of the Swordmaster, would personally welcome Nanggongqiu. Zhao Ke continued flattering her and praised Nanggongqiu as a legendary figure. Someone then looked at the lone throne at the highest position and wondered who it belonged to. Nanggongqiu smiled and confirmed it. That seat was reserved for the Swordmaster of Great Xia, the strongest man alive and a near-mythical figure. The guests immediately broke into discussion, amazed that they might witness the Swordmaster in person. Another guest asked if such a figure would really come, believing they were not worthy of meeting him. Nanggongqiu replied that even she was not qualified to invite him. The seat was there purely as a sign of respect. Just then, security dragged a young woman inside. It was Song Meijiao. Nie Xiaolong frowned and asked who was causing the disturbance. The guards reported that they had caught someone sneaking in with a fake invitation and suspected her of being suspicious. After some struggling, Song Meijiao was finally released. She quickly explained to Nanggongqiu that she meant no harm and that Zhao Ke had given her the invitation. Standing to the side, Zhao Ke was drenched in sweat. He suddenly realized he had forgotten a critical detail. But things only got worse when Song Meijiao insisted that although the invitation was old and damaged, it was definitely not fake. Acting completely innocent, she added that she was a fan of Nanggongqiu and would never bring a fake invitation. If anyone doubted her, they could ask Zhao Ke. Without changing her expression, Nanggongqiu coldly ordered that Song Meijiao be detained and dealt with later. She then instructed Nie Xiaolong to investigate the source of the invitation, and he immediately obeyed. Just as Zhao Ke tried to slip away, Nie Xiaolong called him out on the spot. Zhao Ke awkwardly denied everything and tried to brush it off before sneaking away. At that moment, the mansion doors were thrown open, and Wu Wei walked straight in, cutting through the tense atmosphere. He coldly called out Nanggongqiu by name. Then he declared that no one was allowed to touch his woman. Song Meijiao froze, unable to understand why he had appeared here. Zhao Ke instantly came up with an idea. He pointed at Wu Wei and loudly accused him of sneaking in with a fake invitation, demanding a harsh investigation. Nie Xiaolong already disliked Wu Wei, and hearing that only made him despise him more. He mocked Wu Wei's background, saying he was nothing but an abandoned member of the Lu family and had no right to be here. Nanggongqiu also sneered coldly, saying that if he lived off others, he should know his place instead of forcing his way in. Nie Xiaolong stepped in front of Nanggongqiu and ordered Wu Wei to leave immediately with Song Meijiao before the major figures of the Great Snow Dragon Banner arrived. He even shoved Song Meijiao toward Wu Wei as if she did not belong in this place. Song Meijiao cried out in panic after being pushed, but Wu Wei quickly stepped forward, caught her, and pulled her into his arms. He quietly asked if she was all right, making Song Meijiao blush and stammer without a clear answer. Wu Wei's expression turned cold as he openly mocked Nanggongqiu. He said she acted like the center of the world and looked down on everyone else. He also claimed that even if she joined the Great Snow Dragon Banner, someone like her would be expelled sooner or later. Zhao Ke immediately roared in anger because Wu Wei dared to insult Nanggongqiu. He demanded that Wu Wei kneel and apologize at once. Every guest turned their eyes toward Wu Wei. Wu Wei calmly replied, "Kneel?" Then he coldly added, "She's not qualified for that." The entire hall fell silent. No one could believe anyone would dare say such a thing. One guest loudly scolded Song Meijiao, saying the Song family had already offended the Qiamen Chamber of Commerce, and now her husband was causing trouble at Nanggongqiu's banquet. He then turned to Nanggongqiu and said that even without her intervention, the Qiamen Chamber of Commerce could wipe out the Song family. Song Meijiao panicked and explained that the marriage was only in name, begging them to spare the Song family. Nanggongqiu looked at them coldly and concluded that a family that did not know its place had no reason to exist. Wu Wei suddenly let out a faint laugh and directly called out Chen Fei. He criticized him for suppressing the weak instead of properly running the chamber, saying he no longer deserved his position. Then he swept his gaze across the crowd. He mocked them all for swarming around Song Meijiao like flies. Ni Xiaolong slammed his foot onto the floor and shouted in fury. He demanded to know what Wu Wei thought Nanggongqiu was. Wu Wei casually covered his nose and hinted that everyone could figure it out themselves, though he could say it directly if needed. Ni Xiaolong gritted his teeth in rage. The guests began whispering, convinced that Wu Wei was playing with fire and would not survive the day. Zhao Ke smirked and said that if Wu Wei wanted to die, that was his choice, but he should not drag the Song family down with him. Song Meijiao also panicked and begged Wu Wei to stop talking and apologize to Nanggongqiu, but he ignored every word. Wu Wei's remarks struck directly at Nanggongqiu's pride, and she immediately demanded to know what gave him the right. She proudly introduced herself, saying she had trained in martial arts since childhood, reached the Grandmaster realm at 18, rose through the ranks to become a war god, fought against the Northern Mang army god, and later earned the Swordmaster's recognition and entry into the Great Snow Dragon banner. Behind her, Ni Xiaolong stepped forward, carrying a tray covered with a red cloth, while another person brought a basin of water. Nanggongqiu washed her hands as she continued recounting her achievements. She then dried her hands with a red towel and declared herself the first female general of Great Xia to join the Great Snow Dragon banner. She threw out an invitation marked Great Snow Dragon Pursuit and declared that it represented her qualifications. Ni Xiaolong stood behind her with eyes full of pride and arrogance. Nanggongqiu loudly announced that this invitation qualified her to stand among the highest ranks of Great Xia and the Great Snow Dragon banner. The guests were stunned. They never expected it to be the Great Snow Dragon Pursuit invitation personally granted by the Swordmaster. Song Meijiao swallowed hard, deeply shaken by the authority represented by that invitation. Only Wu Wei remained standing there with a faint and unreadable smile. Nanggongqiu stared at him. Her voice turned colder, but her confidence never faded as she said she would not make things difficult for him. She pointed at the basin and ordered him to drink the water as an apology. She said it would be the price for insulting someone stronger than him. The crowd immediately joined in and demanded that he obey. Ni Xiaolong lost all patience and said Nanggongqiu had already been too lenient. He cursed Wu Wei for not knowing his place and claimed that even drinking her washwater was an honor. Wu Wei only sneered and mocked the so-called reserve force they were so proud of. He added that if the Swordmaster were present, these people would probably kneel and worship him blindly as well, making Nanggongqiu tremble with rage. Ni Xiaolong exploded in anger and said Wu Wei had no right to lecture anyone. Wu Wei calmly asked if they wanted to see his qualifications. Then he told everyone to open their eyes and watch closely. He raised his hand and knocked the basins onto the floor. The basin shattered, and water splashed everywhere. Nanggongqiu immediately screamed his name in fury. She rushed forward to attack, but a single palm strike from Wu Wei sent her flying back. Nanggongqiu cried out in pain. Ni Xiaolong quickly caught her and shouted in alarm. He asked if she was all right. Only then did Nanggongqiu realize that her Great Snow Dragon Pursuit invitation was gone. It was now resting in Wu Wei's hand. Song Meijiao panicked and asked what he was about to do. Wu Wei ignored her and calmly walked toward the highest seat in the hall. Ni Xiaolong immediately shouted that it belonged to the Sword Master of Great Xia. As Wu Wei tore the invitation apart, he spoke in a cold voice. "This is my qualification." He looked directly at Nanggongqiu and listed her faults: arrogance, recklessness, and disrespect toward her superiors. Then he announced that her qualification to join the Great Snow Dragon banner was revoked. After speaking, he tossed the torn pieces into the air. The crowd screamed in horror, unable to believe he had destroyed the Great Snow Dragon Pursuit invitation. Ni Xiaolong instantly drew his sword and prepared to charge, but Nanggongqiu stopped him. She said she would handle it herself. In the next instant, her sword was pointed directly at Wu Wei's throat. She coldly demanded to know what he was trying to do. Wu Wei merely smiled and asked if she knew who she was pointing her sword at. A terrifying aura erupted from his body, causing Nanggongqiu's sword to shake violently. And it was not only her sword. Every sword in the hall began trembling uncontrollably. At that moment, the main doors burst open. 9-star war god Chu Tianba arrived alongside the 10 commanders of the Great Snow Dragon banner. Chu Tianba swept his gaze across the hall and coldly asked why there was such chaos here. Nanggong Chiu immediately dropped to her knees in respect. She introduced herself as a reserve member of the Great Snow Dragon Banner and greeted Chu Tianba and the commanders. The crowd also fell to their knees. Everyone shouted together in greeting to War God Chu and the commanders. Only Wu Wei remained standing. Looking at the newcomers, he casually remarked, "You're late." Song Meijiao spun around in panic and yelled at Wu Wei to leave before he got himself killed. The moment Chu Tianba appeared, he recognized the figure sitting in the highest seat. His expression changed instantly, and only one thought flashed through his mind: boss. His heart shook violently. He never expected that person to appear here in person. Nanggong Chu hurriedly lowered her head and apologized to Chu Tianba, saying an outsider had ruined the Great Snow Dragon Pursuit invitation. Chu Tianba still did not understand the situation and was confused by all the talk about unknown people and invitations. A man beside him immediately blamed everything on Wu Wei and suggested punishing him on the spot. Chu Tianba looked in the direction being pointed at and asked which fool dared cause trouble here. But the next second, he froze because the target was someone he could hardly believe. His mind became completely confused as he tried to understand what was happening. The more he looked at Wu Wei, the more bewildered he became. Why was that man standing in the middle of all this? Wu Wei casually made a small hand gesture. Chu Tianba instantly understood and did not dare act recklessly. He turned toward Nanggong Chiu and ordered everything to stop. Then he announced that the Great Snow Dragon Pursuit invitation had been revoked and that she no longer qualified to join the Great Snow Dragon Banner. The words struck like lightning, leaving Nanggong Chiu devastated as she dropped to her knees. She cried out in despair, "That's impossible." Ni Xiaolong also knelt before Chu Tianba and begged for another chance for Nanggong Chiu. She had endured countless hardships to reach where she is today. Chu Tianba hesitated and looked toward Wu Wei for a decision. Wu Wei stayed calm and indifferent without saying a word. In the end, Chu Tianba sighed and gave in. He said the sword master was living in seclusion at Kunlun Immortal Palace, and if she earned forgiveness, she could still return to the Great Snow Dragon Banner. Nanggong Chiu was instantly overjoyed. She repeatedly bowed her head in gratitude. Chu Tianba signaled an end to the matter, and Ni Xiaolong finally relaxed. The crowd immediately blamed Wu Wei, saying he was the reason Nanggong Chiu lost her chance. Song Meijiao panicked and apologized, begging them not to drag the Song family into this. Wu Wei calmly said he would ensure no one touched the Song family, but Ni Xiaolong drew his sword at him once again. He coldly declared that the Song family could be spared, but Wu Wei had to die. Song Meijiao trembled as she begged Nanggong Chiu to spare him. Ni Xiaolong was furious and claimed Wu Wei had ruined Nanggong Chiu's qualification. Others joined in and agreed that someone like Wu Wei should be removed. Wu Wei casually caught the sword tip between two fingers and calmly asked Nanggong Chiu if she truly wanted this. He warned her to think about the consequences first. Nanggong Chiu watched him stand up and believed he was seeking revenge over the broken engagement. She gritted her teeth in anger. She believed he wanted her to lose all hope of returning to the Great Snow Dragon Banner. The crowd quickly painted Wu Wei as a petty enemy driven by personal grudges. Wu Wei crossed his arms and said she had no right to judge him. He mocked her self-righteous attitude as nothing more than a joke. Ni Xiaolong raised his sword in rage and wanted to kill him on the spot. Wu Wei only smiled and told him to go ahead. Nanggong Chiu shook her head and said her sword did not kill nobodies. Killing him would only stain her blade. She declared that she would prove herself again and regain the sword master's recognition. Then she would start over from the beginning. Wu Wei lightly applauded and said he looked forward to it. Nanggong Chiu turned to the guests and apologized for the chaos. She bowed and accepted responsibility on the spot. Several people immediately defended her and said it was not her fault. They kept attacking Wu Wei and said Nanggong Chiu could still deal with him. Another person threatened that the Song family would be crushed by the Qiaomen Chamber of Commerce. Song Meijiao froze and could not understand why her family was involved. Another group vowed to push the Song family into ruin. Ni Xiaolong pointed directly at him, speaking with the arrogance of a superior. That single sentence made the atmosphere in Jiang City unbearably tense. He let out a mocking laugh and said, "Wow, that sounds terrifying." He even said he might as well be direct about it. In his eyes, everyone around him was mediocre, and they could come at him any time. Song Meijiao suddenly slapped him, making him hiss in pain, as even Lu Wu Wei stood there. She coldly interrupted and said she hated people who bragged without strength. She demanded to know if he understood how much damage he was causing the Song family. She reminded him that her father had decided to marry her to him, yet he still acted this way. Ni Xiaolong sneered and mocked that even his own woman looked down on him. Lu Wuwei fell silent as if deep in thought. A gentle hand rested on Song Meiqiao's shoulder and eased the tension. Nangong Qiu calmly said that man was not worthy of her. Those words comforted her, and her mood gradually improved beside Lady Nangong. Nangong Qiu called everyone to leave, including Ni Xiaolong. Ni Xiaolong was still unwilling and asked if they were really letting him go. Nangong Qiu walked away without looking back and said finding the sword master at Kunlun Immortal Palace came first. Earlier, Chu Zhanshen had revealed the sword master's location, so she decided to personally seek punishment. Lu Wuwei found it amusing and could not understand that way of seeking punishment. The scene shifted to Kunlun Immortal Palace. Inside a study, Wu Wei was eating, while Chu Tianba reported that things in Jiang City were not going well. He even brought an extra helper named Lao Chen. While eating, Wu Wei pointed out that Lao Chen was the chef of the Great Snow Dragon banner, not his personal servant. He stressed that this arrangement broke the rules. Lao Chen, a middle-aged man, respectfully explained that Chu Tianba had misunderstood because he was originally from Jiang City. He also revealed that the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce in Jiang City belonged to him. After becoming a chef for the Great Snow Dragon banner, he handed the business to his younger brother and was only returning to visit family. Wu Wei nodded while chewing and accepted the explanation. Suddenly, loud noises came from outside, along with news that Nangong Qiu's joining ceremony had been disrupted. Someone desperately begged the swordmaster to give her another chance. Nangong Qiu's voice echoed outside Kunlun Immortal Palace as she knelt there and refused to leave without forgiveness. She vowed to remain on her knees no matter what. Through the window, Wu Wei could clearly see everything happening outside. Chu Tianba reported the situation to his leader. He said Nangong Qiu had been kneeling for 3 days and 3 nights. Wu Wei coldly refused to meet her and said she still had not realized her mistake. At that moment, a group of masked men in black carrying swords appeared and confronted Nangong Qiu. They declared that today would be the day she paid with her life. She recognized them as the 4 protectors of the Northern Mang Divine River Army. One of them sneered that a dying person had no right to know their names. The group attacked at once and charged toward her with killing intent. Nangong Qiu dodged part of the assault, but her body was already losing agility. 3 days without rest had completely drained her strength. A strike grazed past and nearly knocked her off balance. Moments later, a sword pierced her shoulder and blood burst out. Inside the palace, Wu Wei calmly continued eating, while a subordinate reported that Nangong Qiu was exhausted. He casually changed the subject and asked if they wanted to try Lao Chen's cooking. Blood continued pouring from her wound as Nangong Qiu gritted her teeth and shouted defiantly. She openly cursed the attackers for their shamelessness, but her exhausted body finally collapsed to the ground. The men in black mocked her and claimed the Northern Mang Divine Army could never be defeated by a rising war god of Great Xia. In her weakened state, she began to think she might die there. She looked toward the gates of Kunlun Immortal Palace and regretted never earning the Swordmaster's approval. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the massive gates. A majestic voice rang out, declaring that divine weapons were strictly forbidden in Great Xia. The voice also warned Northern Mang not to touch Great Xia's territory, and the speaker was Wu Wei. Emerging from the light, Wu Wei slowly stepped forward as his aura covered the entire area. One of the masked men immediately shouted and demanded to know who dared speak so arrogantly. Without changing expression, Wu Wei coldly said he did not wish to fight today and told them to release her and end their own lives. The men in black looked at each other before bursting into mocking laughter. One of them jokingly asked if he was serious. They pointed at the heavily injured war goddess of Great Xia and said her condition was proof enough. They insisted that the man who killed the Northern Mang Divine General would be captured and tortured to death. Their eyes shifted to Wu Wei as they declared he would be crushed like dog food. Wu Wei smiled faintly and said every grudge should have a clear beginning and end. He openly confirmed that he was the one who killed the Northern Mang Divine General. A masked man immediately mocked the claim and said that if it were true, they would kill themselves on the spot. Wu Wei slightly raised his head and revealed a confident and chilling smile. He simply replied that those words came from their own mouths. High above Kunlun Immortal Palace, Chu Tianba sighed as another fool seemed eager to die. He shook his head and lamented that someone else had failed to recognize the boss' strength. Lao Chen carefully covered the food tray, regretting that such a good meal had to be interrupted. Down below, the masked leader ordered everyone to surround the target. The entire group unleashed their aura and prepared to attack Wu Wei. They shouted that he would pay with his life. One final taunt echoed out like a death sentence. But before the sword could reach him, an invisible force from Wu Wei stopped it cold, as a strange pink aura bound both the blade and its owner. The man struggled in terror and completely lost control. He realized his own sword was turning against him. In an instant, a bizarre mark appeared on his neck. Blood sprayed everywhere as his body collapsed. Another attacker stepped back in fear and demanded to know what he had done. Wu Wei replied coldly as his gaze shifted to the next target. Killing intent surged from his eyes as he named the next victim. Not long after, the entire group was wiped out in moments. He coldly remarked that 4 ants had dared to cause trouble. Then his eyes stopped on someone even harder to deal with. He walked over to support Nangang Qiu and lightly mocked her for being so weak, while dreaming of joining the Great Snow Dragon banner. Nangang Qiu's face was pale, and her body trembled from the pain. Wu Wei examined the wound and wondered if the sword had been poisoned. Half conscious, Nangang Qiu vaguely saw a familiar figure. She weakly called out, thinking the swordmaster had saved her. Wu Wei felt a slight stir in his heart, but kept a calm expression. Suddenly, with her remaining strength, Nangang Qiu grabbed his neck. Then she unexpectedly pulled him down and kissed him. Wu Wei froze as his face instantly turned red. From a distance, Nie Xiaolong witnessed everything, and her expression darkened. She angrily shouted Wu Wei's name. Killing intent exploded from her as she swore to kill him on the spot, while Wu Wei desperately tried to explain. The scene remained at the gates of Kunlun Immortal Palace. After receiving part of Wu Wei's spiritual energy through the kiss, Nangang Qiu slowly recovered. She opened her eyes and was stunned by the strange situation before her. Instinctively, she raised her hand to attack, but Wu Wei immediately caught her wrist and stopped her. He sighed and asked who was really being rude here. Nie Xiaolong could not hold back any longer and stepped in. She pointed at Wu Wei and accused him of taking advantage of Nangang Qiu's injuries. Hearing that, Nangang Qiu panicked and quickly hugged herself. Wu Wei calmly denied doing anything. Nie Xiaolong refused to believe him and loudly called him a notorious scoundrel from the capital. Wu Wei fell silent for a moment with a helpless look. He simply said they could believe whatever they wanted. Nie Xiaolong knelt before Nangang Qiu and stressed that she was only tolerating this because of her broken engagement. She looked toward Kunlun Immortal Palace and loudly accused Wu Wei of disrespecting the Great Snow Dragon banner. Pointing straight at him, she demanded that the swordmaster punish him. Wu Wei let out a cold laugh and said saving people only earned him false accusations. He firmly stated that not everyone could push him around. Nangang Qiu began to waver and asked if he had really killed the 4 protectors of Northern Mang. Nie Xiaolong immediately insisted that Wu Wei was lying. She claimed she had personally seen those 4 men kill themselves. Nangang Qiu froze and repeated those words in disbelief. Nie Xiaolong explained that only the swordmaster of Great Xia could force Northern Mang experts to take their own lives. Nangang Qiu immediately bowed respectfully and thanked the swordmaster for intervening. Wu Wei smiled faintly, pleased that she had finally grasped part of the truth. Nangang Qiu suddenly turned and fixed her eyes on Wu Wei. She directly asked whether he was truly the one who had acted. Then she coldly laughed, dismissed the idea completely, and mocked the thought of him being the swordmaster. Faced with that reaction, Wu Wei remained silent. She continued pressing him and said his actions only made people disgusted. At that moment, Wu Wei let out a quiet sigh. He shook his head and said she had misunderstood so badly that there was no saving it. That remark instantly enraged Nie Xiaolong. She was about to charge forward, but Nangang Qiu stopped her and said arguing with someone like him was beneath them. Nie Xiaolong snorted coldly but lowered her sword. She left him with a warning and told him to watch himself. Nangang Qiu stared at Wu Wei and firmly told him to stay out of her life, stop his fantasies, and leave because they were never on the same level. Hearing that, Wu Wei clenched his jaw but chose not to argue. The conflict outside Kunlun Immortal Palace gradually settled as dawn arrived. The war goddess of Great Xia still could not tell right from wrong and kept driving Wu Wei away as if he were guilty. He muttered in annoyance, wondering where she got such unreasonable confidence. Just then, Lu Wuwei's phone rang. He answered and heard his parents calling about family matters, urging him and Song Meixiao to build their relationship and join some friends for a meal. He tried to refuse and hesitated, but before he could finish speaking, the call was cut off, leaving him stunned. A message soon arrived with the restaurant address arranged by his family. Ni Xiaolong walked over and harshly told him to get lost, but Wu Wei barely glanced at her and fired back. He turned toward Nangong Chiu with a calm yet provocative tone. He coldly declared that one day she would bow her head before him. Nangong Chiu only felt disgusted and completely failed to understand what he meant. After saying everything he wanted, Wu Wei turned and left for his meeting with Song Mi Qiao, while Ni Xiaolong cursed under her breath. Meanwhile, elsewhere, at a banquet room, Song Mi Qiao was discussing her marriage with friends, many of whom mocked her for marrying the notorious man from the capital. Faced with those comments, Song Mi Qiao awkwardly asked everyone to be less harsh. A man sitting across from her seized the chance to show off his influence and claimed he could end that marriage for her. Since Song Mi Qiao had no feelings for Wu Wei, his sweet words left her slightly flustered. Murong Xue deliberately pushed the topic further and whispered that the man clearly liked her. Song Mi Qiao immediately denied it, embarrassed and uncomfortable. The awkward atmosphere became even more tense when Chen Fei arrived. He walked over and teasingly called Song Mi Qiao the business queen of Jiang City. Speaking half seriously and half jokingly, he even tried to touch her as if they were close. Song Mi Qiao immediately stepped aside and coldly told him to keep his distance. Seeing the tension rise, someone quickly stood up to greet Chen Fei. They reminded him that the meeting was supposed to discuss the debt between the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce and the Song family. Chen Fei looked bored, as if he had no interest in the subject. He moved closer to Song Mi Qiao and suggested continuing the discussion in a presidential suite. As he spoke, his hand brushed across her shoulder with obvious intent. Chen Fei suddenly grabbed Song Mi Qiao's wrist and pulled her close, demanding that she follow him. The sudden move shocked her, and she struggled while angrily telling him to let go. Refusing to release her, Chen Fei maintained his dominance, while Song Mi Qiao fought to escape. She grabbed a wine glass and splashed its contents at him when his guard dropped. Zhao Ke panicked and rushed over, loudly calling Chen Fei's name. He urged Chen Fei to calm down and suggested discussing the debt another day. But Chen Fei was furious and slapped Zhao Ke across the face, saying he had no right to tell him what to do. Song Mi Qiao witnessed the scene and froze in fear. Chen Fei turned back toward her with a threatening look. He introduced himself as a director of the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce and boasted that his backers could crush the Song family. His threats forced Song Mi Qiao backward until she was pinned against the wall. He grabbed her chin and warned that one move from him could completely blacklist the Song Corporation. Murong Xue immediately spoke up against his actions. She pulled on Chen Fei's arm to protect Song Mi Qiao and demanded that he stop. But Chen Fei shoved her away and yelled at her to leave. Murong Xue stumbled and accidentally bumped into someone who had just arrived. Looking up, she heard a cold voice dismiss the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce as insignificant. The newcomer was Lu Wu Wei, who had arrived at the address and immediately witnessed everything before declaring that no one was allowed to touch his woman. Song Mi Qiao was shocked and could not understand why he had appeared there. Seeing someone interfere, Chen Fei released Song Mi Qiao and sneered as if he had found new entertainment. He mocked Wu Wei as a useless man in the eyes of the Song family. Then he ridiculed him as a troublemaker who did not know his place. Song Mi Qiao quickly stepped in and said the Song family's affairs had nothing to do with him. But Wu Wei ignored her, his gaze turning cold as he demanded that Chen Fei release her and apologize. Chen Fei became even more arrogant and kept holding Song Mi Qiao to show off his authority. He laughed loudly and repeated that Wu Wei was actually ordering him to apologize. Wu Wei stepped forward, grabbed his wrist, and twisted it hard, making Chen Fei scream in pain. Song Mi Qiao panicked and begged him to stop before things went too far. Hearing that, Wu Wei let go and shoved Chen Fei away. Chen Fei staggered back with a murderous smile. He warned that he would not let this matter go. Wu Wei calmly reminded him that he still had not apologized. Embarrassed, Song Mi Qiao called out to him. Wu Wei turned to her, his voice softer but still protective. He said, a man who could not protect his own wife was not worthy of being called a man. Chen Fei cut in with a challenging tone. He asked how exactly he was supposed to apologize. Wu Wei picked up a bottle of wine and held it out. He told Chen Fei to finish the entire bottle. Then he pointed to the door and said Chen Fei could leave peacefully if he did, and he might even spare the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce. Zhao Ke was stunned and quickly said Wu Wei had lost his mind. He stressed that he had worked hard to invite Chen Fei, and offending him would destroy the Song family. Murong Shui agreed and said the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce held enormous influence in Jiang City. She also mentioned its backing from the Great Snow Dragon banner. Chen Fei stepped closer to Song Meiqiao with an intimidating look. He asked whether she really dared to make him apologize. Song Meiqiao hesitated, and her fear became obvious. Standing beside her, Wu Wei firmly told her not to be afraid. He declared that the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce was nothing worth mentioning and could be erased at any time. He even said that their chairman would have to kneel and apologize if he showed up. Song Meiqiao gritted her teeth and wondered if Wu Wei was bringing disaster upon himself. Murong Shui was so frightened she nearly cried, fearing those words would drag the Song family into ruin. For the sake of her family, Song Meiqiao stepped forward and tried to ease the situation. She lowered her voice and admitted that she had lost her temper earlier. Her eyes swept across the glasses on the table as she considered something. Then she poured herself a full glass of wine. Raising the glass, she bowed slightly and apologized to Chen Fei. After that, she drained the entire glass in one gulp. She held out the empty glass and waited for his response. Her face was already flushed from the alcohol as she asked if he was satisfied. Chen Fei raised a hand and signaled that it was not enough. He coldly laughed and said one glass showed no sincerity. Standing nearby, Wu Wei shook his head and thought the man was endlessly greedy. Chen Fei reached for the wine bottle on the table. He set a condition that if she finished the entire bottle, he would consider canceling the Song Corporation's debt. Song Meiqiao hesitated, unsure what to do. Wu Wei immediately stopped her and said she did not need to obey him. He declared that he would personally make the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce repay every debt. Zhao Ke laughed in contempt and said Wu Wei was living in a fantasy. He blamed Wu Wei and said none of this would have happened if he had not angered Chen Fei. Wu Wei instantly snapped back and told him to shut up. A burst of killing intent made Zhao Ke break out in a cold sweat. Chen Fei continued pressuring Song Meiqiao and warned that he would leave if she refused to drink. He even threatened to halt all debt recovery arrangements involving the Song family. Then he warned her to imagine the consequences if the Song family's finances collapsed. After speaking, he turned around as if the discussion was over. Song Meiqiao bit her lip and finally gave in. She grabbed his sleeve and quietly begged him, agreeing to drink the entire bottle. Chen Fei revealed a smug smile, convinced everything was going his way. He handed over the bottle and signaled for her to begin. Song Meiqiao accepted the bottle with trembling hands. Before drinking, she took a deep breath to gather her courage. Lu Wu Wei immediately stepped forward and told her to stop, but she brushed his hand away and stood firm. Overwhelmed with emotion, she said her business was none of his concern. Then she raised the bottle and drank it in one go. Wine spilled from her lips while Chen Fei watched with a twisted look of desire. He praised her with fake admiration and called her a strong woman. Lu Wu Wei tried to stop her from behind but was too late. After finishing the bottle, Song Meiqiao set it down and staggered as she said the deal was done. Her face was flushed from the alcohol as she demanded Chen Fei keep his promise. With a low tolerance for alcohol, she quickly lost balance and drifted into a dazed state. She collapsed, and Lu Wu Wei rushed forward to catch her while Murong Shui called out in panic. Holding her in his arms, he anxiously checked on her condition. But Murong Shui immediately stepped in and pulled her away from him. She asked Zhao Ke to help take Song Meiqiao home, and he agreed. But just as they were about to leave, another hand blocked their way. Chen Fei smirked and said it was not their decision to make. Murong Shui froze in confusion. Pretending to care, he grabbed Song Meijiao's hand and said he would take her himself. He also promised the money would reach the Song family by tomorrow morning. Lu Wu Wei spoke coldly and told him to stop. Chen Fei let go and mocked him, calling him useless and asking what he planned to do. Lu Wu Wei replied with killing intent and warned him not to cross the line. He shouted that Chen Fei had become far too arrogant. The pressure from Lu Wu Wei made Chen Fei start feeling uneasy. Murong Shui quickly tried to calm things down and said the matter was already settled. She turned to Zhao Ke and blamed him for not finding a solution. Zhao Ke awkwardly admitted he had no answer. Deep down, he knew that in Jiangcheng, the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce was untouchable. Chen Fei once again tightened his grip on Song Meijiao's wrist. Looking completely superior, he demanded they hand her over at once. Murong Shui stayed polite but firmly refused, saying Song Meijiao could not handle more alcohol. Right at that tense moment, Lu Wu Wei stepped in and slapped Chen Fei's hand away. The atmosphere instantly turned cold as Lu Wu Wei warned that touching his woman meant offending the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce. Chen Fei laughed in contempt and did not believe the threat at all. He immediately fired back with arrogant words and even challenged Lu Wuwei. He boasted that there was no one in Jiangcheng he dared not touch, unaware that Lu Wuwei's eyes had turned deadly. Without hesitation, Lu Wuwei grabbed the empty wine bottle from the table. The bottle came crashing down straight onto Chen Fei's head. Blood and shattered glass exploded everywhere from the impact. Chen Fei stood frozen, stunned by the sudden attack. Zhao Ke rushed over in panic and repeatedly called Chen Fei's name. Murong Xue was shocked and never expected Lu Wuwei to act so decisively. Zhao Ke immediately shouted and accused Lu Wuwei of being reckless. Lu Wuwei did not back down and pointed a broken bottle shard at the crowd. His voice was ice cold as he challenged anyone who wanted to die to step forward. Zhao Ke's face turned red with anger, but he could not say another word. Holding his bloody head, Chen Fei trembled and demanded to know what Lu Wuwei wanted. Without answering, Lu Wuwei picked up an ashtray from the table. He dumped all the cigarette ash into a nearby wine glass while mocking him. Then, he raised the mixture and offered it with a provoking smile. Chen Fei finally panicked and begged for mercy, but Lu Wuwei forced the mixture into his mouth and coldly said it was too late. The sight made Zhao Ke and Murong Xue sick as Chen Fei choked on it. Unable to endure it, he vomited on the spot. Lu Wuwei still showed no mercy and continued threatening him until Chen Fei turned pale. In the blink of an eye, Lu Wuwei moved behind him and pushed him into total panic. He spoke like a final judgment and declared Chen Fei would lose that ability forever. Without hesitation, he delivered a brutal kick straight to Chen Fei's groin. The impact felt as if everything had been crushed into pieces. Chen Fei's scream was so loud it echoed beyond the building. He curled up on the floor, clutching the injury while trembling uncontrollably. Murong Xue panicked as she realized things had gone too far this time. Lu Wuwei calmly said that if they were afraid, they could leave and let him handle everything. Zhao Ke hurriedly urged everyone to leave before the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce arrived. Lu Wuwei watched them leave and reminded Song Meijiao to walk carefully. Even in pain, Chen Fei gritted his teeth and spat out bitter threats. Lu Wuwei said nothing, slapped him across the face, and declared he would visit the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce tomorrow. He coldly stated that the chairman should prepare the money or lose an arm for every coin missing. The scene shifted to the Song family villa. Zhao Ke escorted Song Meijiao home and asked about her condition. He repeated the doctor's warning that she must avoid alcohol and monitor her health closely. Song Meijiao slowly regained her senses and softly said she was fine. Ma Rong repeatedly thanked Zhao Ke for helping her. At that moment, Lu Wuwei returned home as well. Just as Ma Rong was expressing her gratitude, he walked into the ongoing conversation. When Zhao Ke was about to do something for Song Meijiao, Lu Wuwei immediately stopped him. He looked at Zhao Ke with suspicion and wondered why he was here. Ma Rong instantly became furious and scolded Lu Wuwei for daring to come back. Lu Wuwei paused for a moment and gave a vague reply. The next second, Ma Rong grabbed his ear and dragged him over. She berated Lu Wuwei, saying Old Song had trusted him with his daughter, yet he had handled everything terribly. The more she spoke, the angrier she became, accusing him of disappearing when Song Meijiao was in danger. She pointed at Zhao Ke and praised him non-stop, insisting he had saved Song Meijiao from disaster. Lu Wuwei frowned in confusion and asked if that was really what happened. Zhao Ke pretended to defend Lu Wuwei, but actually belittled him by saying he was too weak and ran away. He added more sarcasm and painted Lu Wuwei as a coward. Ma Rong continued cursing him and treated him like a burden on the family. Lu Wuwei did not argue and walked straight over to settle the truth. Standing before Zhao Ke, he demanded to know who had really run away and who had actually saved the day. Zhao Ke kept arguing and acted as if he had done nothing wrong. Lu Wuwei grabbed his collar and exposed his shameless attempt to steal the credit. Song Meijiao stepped in and told him to stop, but she had already been misled by Zhao Ke and blamed Lu Wuwei for causing the trouble from the start. Lu Wuwei froze when he saw even his own family would not stand by him. Song Meijiao coldly concluded that he was irresponsible and unreliable. Lu Wuwei asked if she truly could not remember what had happened earlier. After saying that, he released Zhao Ke's collar. Song Meijiao angrily argued back and accused him of shifting blame while ignoring the full truth. The more Ma Rong listened, the more convinced she became that everything was Lu Wuwei's fault. Zhao Ke continued acting kind and advised Song Meijiao not to get worked up after her stomach treatment. He pretended to be generous and said the credit did not matter and could go to Lu Wuwei. Zhao Ke mocked him again, implying that a live-in son-in-law needed some achievements to survive in the family. He kept acting noble, as if he had no interest in competing. Lu Wuwei clenched his fists, feeling both anger and deep frustration. His hands trembled as he suppressed his rage. Just then, someone entered from outside. Murong Shui greeted Song Meijiao and asked about her condition. Song Meijiao immediately pulled her over and demanded the truth about last night. Murong Shui looked surprised by the question. Song Meijiao wanted to know who had really saved her. Yet her words still carried blame toward Lu Wuwei and pushed him away from any recognition. Murong Shui joined in with teasing remarks, making the atmosphere even more uncomfortable. Lu Wuwei simply shook his head, helpless as the truth was twisted. Back at the Song family villa, Murong Shui hesitated and spoke unclearly. Suddenly, her eyes lit up as if she had realized something. It turned out Zhao Ke was secretly signaling her. Lu Wuwei immediately noticed something strange about her reaction. Murong Shui hesitated, unsure what she should say. In the end, she chose Zhao Ke's side and claimed he was the one who saved Song Meijiao. Zhao Ke instantly looked pleased and accepted the praise without hesitation. Murong Shui walked over to Song Meijiao and continued retelling the story in Zhao Ke's favor. Working together with him, she highlighted Zhao Ke's contribution while leaving out key details. Her voice choked up as if she were about to cry, adding more drama to the story. Song Meijiao comforted her while Lu Wuwei realized the truth had been completely distorted. Murong Shui turned around when someone called her name. Lu Wuwei angrily demanded to know why she was lying. Murong Shui immediately argued back, claiming he had bad intentions and should not be near Song Meijiao. Lu Wuwei gritted his teeth as anger surged inside him, but he stayed calm. Murong Shui kept pointing at him and shifted all the blame onto him. She turned to Song Meijiao and asked if Lu Wuwei was threatening her. Ma Rong instantly exploded, accusing Lu Wuwei of using dirty tricks to steal credit and bully others. Lu Wuwei sighed, exhausted from being completely misunderstood. He took a deep breath to keep himself under control. Lu Wuwei firmly stated that he had never threatened anyone and that it was all fabricated. Murong Shui continued acting weak and tearfully denied everything. Song Meijiao barely hesitated and immediately sided with Murong Shui. Ma Rong declared that if this was not resolved, she would force them to divorce. Zhao Ke quickly stepped in and pretended to calm everyone down. He spoke in circles about not ruining a marriage over small matters. In reality, he was just playing the good guy and acting concerned. Watching the performance, Lu Wuwei felt sick and refused to hear more lies. Ma Rong still blamed everything on Lu Wuwei and said even the divorce would be his fault. She spoke harshly and treated him like a worthless man. Those words made Lu Wuwei fall silent with a heavy heart. Seeing that, Zhao Ke became even more pleased with himself. Lu Wuwei looked straight at him and coldly called him a clown. Zhao Ke's face turned red with anger, but he could not refute it. Just as the tension peaked, the sound of a cane striking the floor echoed through the room. Song Meijiao's grandfather appeared with an icy expression. Everyone froze at the sight of him, especially Ma Rong and Song Meijiao. Song Meijiao hurried over and asked why he had come, but her grandfather immediately shouted and pointed his cane at her. He ordered her to resign as chairman of the Song group and kneel before the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce. Then he called out Ma Rong by name without any restraint. Terrified, Ma Rong trembled as he questioned both of them about the disaster they had caused. The atmosphere inside the Song villa became extremely heavy. Ma Rong panicked and asked what had happened. The old man coldly said, "It all started because of Song Meijiao." Ma Rong turned and demanded an explanation from her. Song Meijiao was completely confused and did not know what she had done wrong. Her grandfather scolded her again and said she still had the nerve to ask. He revealed that she had offended the crown prince of the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce and even threatened him. News had spread, and the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce was preparing retaliation, leaving the Song family financially blocked and near ruin. Ma Rong could hardly believe it and stammered in shock. Song Meijiao went pale and nearly collapsed as Murong Shui rushed to support her. She realized in panic that without that funding, the company would completely fall apart. Murong Shui tried to comfort her, but could not hide her own concern. Ma Rong sank into a chair as her spirit crumbled. She asked again, unable to accept what she had just heard. Song Meijiao was equally confused and had no idea what was going on. Tears filled her eyes while the responsibility was suddenly pushed toward Zhao Ke. Every gaze in the room instantly shifted to Zhao Ke. Panic flashed across his face as he avoided eye contact and broke into a sweat. Lu Wuwei let out a cold laugh and reminded everyone that Zhao Ke had started it all. He continued exposing how Zhao Ke stole the credit and twisted the truth. His voice dripped with sarcasm as he pointed out who had really made those reckless threats. Ma Rong turned around and blamed Lu Wuwei once again. Lu Wuwei stayed silent and refused to argue with her. Ma Rong then looked at Zhao Ke and brought up his father's ties to the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce. Song Meijiao immediately turned toward him as hope appeared in her eyes. Zhao Ke started feeling uneasy as he realized the situation was changing. Ma Rong kept pressuring him to take responsibility. She insisted that only Zhao Ke could save the Song family now. Song Meijiao also looked at him with expectation, adding even more pressure. Reluctantly, he said he would contact his father to handle the matter. Then he turned and called out to Lu Wuwei. Zhao Ke tried to drag him into the matter, saying Lu Wuwei could not stay out of it after taking action. Ma Rong froze, shocked that the blame was suddenly shifting back to Lu Wuwei. Song Meijiao turned to Murong Xue for confirmation, causing her to hesitate awkwardly. Murong Xue stuttered and avoided giving a clear answer. Lu Wuwei sighed and said everyone was making too much fuss over a simple debt. Zhao Ke quickly jumped in, stressing that this involved the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce and was not something easily handled. Lu Wuwei smirked and treated the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce like a minor force not worth mentioning. Song Meijiao's grandfather let out a cold laugh, clearly unconvinced. He mocked Lu Wuwei for having a big mouth but no real ability. He laid down a condition that if the debt was not resolved, Lu Wuwei must agree to a divorce. The atmosphere tightened as his threat left Ma Rong and Song Meijiao stunned. Lu Wuwei simply smiled calmly, as if everything was already under control. He agreed immediately, without any hesitation. He even seemed confused about why such a simple issue had become so serious. Ma Rong instantly seized the chance and said divorce was inevitable since he caused the trouble. Lu Wuwei's expression darkened at once. He strongly argued that she was judging the situation, after hearing only one side. Song Meijiao's grandfather slammed his cane against the floor, making the room tense. He insisted that someone of the other party's status could not possibly be in the wrong. Song Meijiao was briefly stunned by her grandfather's attitude. He continued by saying that weaker people should learn to endure. Song Meijiao lowered her head and stayed silent. Her father also spoke up against letting Lu Wuwei handle the matter. He believed Lu Wuwei had neither connections nor ability and would only put himself in danger. Lu Wuwei calmly reassured him, but his words only made the man more doubtful. Lu Wuwei addressed the old man as grandfather, which immediately angered him. The old man shouted and demanded that he stop using that title. Song Meijiao's father continued analyzing the situation and said Lu Wuwei had no chance against the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce. He emphasized that the other side had powerful backing. He feared the Song family would suffer heavily if things went wrong. Murong Xue looked hesitant and concerned. She advised Lu Wuwei to reconsider. Song Meijiao remained firm and refused to hear more advice. She believed Lu Wuwei was only talking big and would never actually act. She declared that she would handle everything herself and accept the consequences. Lu Wuwei let out a cold laugh and simply said he would wait and see. The scene shifted outside. As Lu Wuwei prepared to leave, Murong Xue stopped him. He coldly called her a liar, making her immediately lash out. Murong Xue said she only wanted to help. Lu Wuwei directly asked what she could possibly do. She confidently said her grandfather could deal with the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce. She claimed her grandfather was a famous miracle doctor with great influence. Lu Wuwei seemed doubtful about this so-called miracle doctor. He suddenly flicked her forehead. Even as she complained in pain, he insisted that no one needed to interfere in his affairs. Murong Xue angrily accused him of not appreciating kindness. Lu Wuwei ignored her and walked away. Murong Xue fumed and decided to see how he would solve the problem. The scene shifted to a high-rise building. Murong Xue entered and looked around in amazement. She admitted the place was quite impressive. She asked if this was really Lu Wuwei's territory. He teased her and said she could start flattering him if she wanted. Murong Xue immediately reacted with annoyance. Just then, a man dropped to his knees and confessed his fault. He knelt before Lu Wuwei and Murong Xue without daring to raise his head. The man repeatedly apologized for poor management and allowing such a mistake to happen. He willingly accepted full responsibility. Lu Wuwei coldly told him to stand up and gave him a chance to make amends. He made one thing clear. If the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce paid the debt today, the matter would be settled. Murong Xue watched from the side, completely confused about who Old Chen really was and why he spoke to the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce with such authority. Lu Wuwei only smiled faintly, his confidence unchanged. He did not explain and let her see the truth for herself. Returning to the main issue, he asked Old Chen, who was deliberately refusing to pay the Song family. Old Chen immediately presented the investigation records and reported that everything was ready. He reported that more than a dozen companies still owed payments to the Song Group. The investigation showed that most of them were subsidiaries of the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce and had delayed payment under direct orders. Lu Wuwei reviewed the records, and his expression turned cold as he stated that debts must be repaid. He was clearly displeased by their arrogant behavior. Old Chen reported that he had already contacted the parties involved and that they would arrive soon. Lu Wuwei closed the ledger and saw no need to read further. He calmly ordered that any company absent today would lose its right to remain in Jiangcheng. Old Chen lowered his head and accepted the order without question. At that moment, the main doors were forcefully pushed open. A man strode in and arrogantly demanded to know who dared target his company. Zhuang Jinshan appeared with a furious expression after hearing the threat. He walked straight up to Lu Wuwei and looked at him with contempt. He loudly demanded to know who had made such outrageous remarks. Then he slammed his hand onto the table to assert dominance. He continued threatening everyone and acted as if they were courting death. Zhuang Jinshan warned that they would pay a heavy price if they failed to explain themselves. Lu Wuwei merely smiled and remained completely unfazed. He picked up a glass of water from the table. Then he calmly took a sip as if nothing had happened. Being ignored only made Zhuang Jinshan even angrier. Only then did Lu Wuwei casually call for Old Chen. Old Chen immediately understood and responded at once. He walked up to Zhuang Jinshan and slapped him without hesitation. The blow sent him crashing to the floor. Holding his face, Zhuang Jinshan was both shocked and furious. Old Chen coldly warned that one more act of disrespect would erase his company from Jiangcheng. Murong Shui was utterly stunned by what she witnessed. Looking at Lu Wuwei, she found his identity even harder to understand. She called out to him in confusion. She directly asked if this was really his way of collecting debts because it seemed far too extreme. Lu Wuwei smiled lightly and asked if she was scared. Even after being struck, Zhuang Jinshan struggled to his feet and demanded to know who they were. He introduced himself as the CEO of Hengxing Group. He stressed that Hengxing was part of the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce, but Lu Wuwei remained indifferent. He continued using the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce to threaten them. Lu Wuwei glanced at Old Chen and signaled with his eyes. Old Chen sighed softly as if he understood everything. He stepped in front of Zhuang Jinshan and coldly questioned his status. He declared that a single word from him could bring down Hengxing Group. Hearing that, Zhuang Jinshan's expression changed and panic began to set in. Just then, another person entered from outside. The newcomer arrived with an arrogant attitude and surveyed the room. He introduced himself as Pan Shiyi and claimed to be a veteran of Jiangcheng's business world. He mocked the idea that anyone could destroy Hengxing Group and called it impossible. Lu Wuwei merely shook his head and continued drinking tea. He slowly poured more tea into his cup. Seeing Zhuang Jinshan on the floor, Pan Shiyi laughed and thought it was some strange performance. He asked what kind of act Zhuang Jinshan was putting on, but then noticed Old Chen standing behind him. Without another word, Old Chen kicked him directly. Pan Shiyi was sent flying and landed beside Zhuang Jinshan. He jumped up in anger and demanded to know who Old Chen was. Old Chen coldly repeated the question back at him. Then he casually replied that he was nothing more than a cook. Elsewhere, Murong Shui suddenly rushed over and shoved Lu Wuwei. The unexpected push made Lu Wuwei pause in confusion. She urgently told him to stop his people before Song Meijiao and the Song Group suffered a disaster. Lu Wuwei simply raised both hands and calmly indicated that everything was under control. Seeing that reaction, Murong Shui could only sigh as if he was taking the act too seriously. A chubby man walked over and asked what was happening, mentioning that they had all been summoned here. The crowd helped the two fallen men up while discussing the shocking scene. One of them looked confused and asked why Master Pan had reacted that way. Pan Shiyi immediately vented his anger and pointed all the blame at Lu Wuwei. Lu Wuwei slammed the ledger onto the table and coldly demanded everyone introduce themselves. He stood tall and declared himself the Song family's son-in-law, here to collect every debt owed to Song Group. The room fell silent the moment he finished speaking. A few seconds later, mocking laughter spread across the room. Zhao Jinshan smirked and instantly figured out who he was. He laughed in contempt, realizing Lu Wuwei was just a look-down-and-live-in son-in-law. Fan Shiyi stepped forward and warned that Song Group was not something anyone could touch. In his eyes, challenging them was no different from seeking death. The fat man suddenly pushed Fan Shiyi aside and stepped forward himself. With a sly grin, he asked if Meiqiao had sent Lu Wuwei here. The moment Lu Wuwei heard Meiqiao's name, his eyes turned ice cold. The fat man cracked his knuckles, as if ready to start a fight. He hurled insults and made a blatantly offensive demand. The three men burst into laughter, as if it were the funniest joke ever. Lu Wuwei began calling them out one by one, starting with Zhao Jinshan. Zhao Jinshan frowned and answered with open defiance. Lu Wuwei raised the ledger and read out Hong Xing's debt of 9 million. After interest was added, the total reached 10 million. He then tossed the ledger straight at them. In a cold voice, he gave them 1 day to repay everything. Zhao Jinshan laughed as if he had heard a joke. Then he immediately refused the demand. He shouted that Hong Xing's reputation could never be trampled like this. The two men beside him quickly joined in and backed him up. Old Chen watched from outside and gritted his teeth in anger. He shouted at Zhao Jinshan for being far too arrogant. Zhao Jinshan pointed at him and fired back with threats. Lu Wuwei coldly called out his name. His gaze sharpened as he offered one final chance to repay the debt. Zhao Jinshan responded with a provocative gesture. Backed by powerful supporters, he acted even more fearless. He had absolutely no intention of paying a single cent. Lu Wuwei only let out a cold chuckle. Before moving on, he told them to remember every word he had said. He ordered Old Chen to record every debt without missing anyone. Old Chen immediately obeyed and carefully wrote everything down. In no time, Hong Xing's debts were fully documented. Zhao Jinshan cursed furiously without holding back. He kept threatening Lu Wuwei, claiming he had no idea who he was provoking. Lu Wuwei ignored him and shifted his attention to Fan Shiyi. He read out Wan Hao's debt, totaling 8 million with interest included. The ledger was tossed toward him like an unquestionable order. He was given the same deadline of 1 day to settle the debt. Fan Shiyi pretended to be confused, denied the figures, and laughed with his companions. Zhao Jinshan joined in and mocked why honest businessmen like them were being harassed over a little money. He even compared debt collectors to mad dogs running around everywhere. Fan Shiyi patted Zhao Jinshan on the shoulder and sarcastically played along. Zhao Jinshan became even more arrogant and said he had no reason to listen. Then he casually stepped on the debt ledger. He bragged that one stomp was enough to make all the evidence worthless. Watching this, Lu Wuwei felt nothing but growing irritation. Since they wanted to erase it, he doubled the amount and raised it straight to 20 million. Fan Shiyi froze in disbelief and even challenged him back. Lu Wuwei smiled as if he had been waiting for that and confirmed the new amount. Not only the money, he also added Wanhao Group's ownership rights to the recovery list and ordered it recorded. Old Chen carried out the order without hesitation. In his eyes, these men were pushing themselves straight into a dead end. Murong Xue watched everything unfold, her expression filled with disbelief. She turned to Old Chen and asked if he was really writing all that down. She looked completely confused by this entire approach. Old Chen coldly warned her to watch her words, leaving her even more frustrated. Unable to hold back, she turned to Lu Wuwei and asked if he had lost his mind. Lu Wuwei only smiled faintly and said this was just the beginning. The blazing sun outside stood in sharp contrast to the tense atmosphere inside. Lu Wuwei remained seated, looking like the one in complete control. He ignored all of Murong Xu's advice, making her feel misunderstood. She was genuinely worried about his safety, and nothing more. Seeing her speak too much, Lu Wuwei signaled Old Chen. Old Chen immediately understood. He warned Murong Xue that if she kept interrupting, she would be asked to leave. Annoyed, Murong Xue turned away and stayed silent. Lu Wuwei moved on to the next debt on the list. Looking at the paper, he coldly asked who was next. The fat man stepped forward and told him to check his account. Lu Wuwei glanced at it and stated the debt was only 2 million. The fat man's face darkened as he repeated the number. He angrily shouted that Lu Wuwei was looking down on him. Lu Wuwei tilted his head as if he could not understand the complaint. Then he casually added a few extra zeros. Calmly, he raised the debt to 200 million and asked if that was enough. The fat man took the paper back, and his expression changed instantly. He sneered and claimed even a bigger number meant nothing. He even cursed Lu Wuwei and said he would burn the paper after his death. Zhao Jinshan joined in and mocked how the debt would be collected. He joked about the debt as if it belonged in the underworld. The entire group laughed and threw out one insult after another. Lu Wuwei remained expressionless despite the ridicule. Fan Shiyi mocked him as well, while Zhao Jinshan assumed Lu Wuwei had already given up. Old Chen finally could not endure it anymore. He loudly warned them not to disrespect his lord. Zhao Jinshan immediately fired back with insults and contempt. Old Chen answered only with a sharp and icy stare. Zhao Jinshan continued acting arrogantly, using his backing as a threat and declaring Song Group was doomed. Lu Wuwei stayed seated, completely calm as if everything was under control. Fan Shiyi nodded in agreement with Zhao Jinshan. He believed the debt collection effort was nothing but a fantasy. He mocked them again and said they should worry about the Old Gate Chamber of Commerce's revenge instead. After that, the group turned around and prepared to leave. But Fan Shiyi suddenly stopped in his tracks. Old Chen was already standing at the doorway blocking the exit. He coldly declared that whichever foot stepped out first would be broken. The fat man gritted his teeth and treated the warning like a joke. Old Chen said nothing and simply swept his blade-like gaze across the crowd. Lu Wuwei glanced at his phone, clearly annoyed that the person he was waiting for had not arrived. At that moment the door opened, and an announcement rang out that the chairman of the Old Gate Chamber of Commerce had arrived. With support finally here, Zhao Jinshan immediately threatened Lu Wuwei and smugly declared his end was near. Lu Wuwei merely smirked as if everything had gone according to plan. Murong Xue panicked and repeatedly urged him to surrender at once. Outside, the harsh sunlight continued to shine across the skyscraper. The door opened again as an elderly man entered with 2 guards, introduced as the chairman of the Old Gate Chamber of Commerce. Zhao Jinshan's eyes lit up as if he had found a lifeline and rushed forward to greet him. Fan Shiyi quickly began twisting the story to make himself look like the victim. The chairman frowned and directly asked what was going on. Zhao Jinshan immediately pointed at Lu Wuwei and accused him of forcing unreasonable debt payments. He even exaggerated the story and claimed Lu Wuwei had attacked him first. He continued complaining and stressed that the young master's order was to give Song Group nothing. Fan Shiyi also joined in and claimed Song Group could be wiped out with a single command. Hearing that, the chairman's expression immediately darkened. He repeated the statement in a colder voice, emphasizing the destruction of Song Group. The fat man nodded and added that anyone from Song Group who dared touch the chamber's crown prince must pay the price. That only made the chairman's face grow even darker. Without warning, he suddenly raised his leg. A powerful kick slammed into the fat man's face. The man was sent flying backward and crashed onto the floor. Fan Shi stood frozen, unable to understand what was happening. The chairman erupted in fury, and the entire group began trembling in fear. Fan Shi awkwardly asked if the chairman had lost control. In response, the chairman slapped him hard across the face. He shouted for him to shut up immediately. Zhao Jinshan turned pale and froze in terror. The chairman's icy gaze swept over him like it could crush his spirit. Zhao Jinshan collapsed to the floor and begged for mercy. The chairman furiously cursed them as fools, who knew nothing of their place. Trembling, Zhao Jinshan still asked why the chamber was attacking its own people. The chairman immediately roared and ordered everyone to kneel. Before anyone else reacted, Zhao Jinshan dropped to his knees first. Moments later, all 3 were kneeling in a neat row. Lu Wuwei simply made a brief comment as he watched. The atmosphere around him became noticeably calmer. Zhao Jinshan secretly asked Fan Shiyi why the chairman had changed so suddenly. Fan Shiyi could only tell him to wait and see. The chairman walked straight to Old Chen and bowed his head, calling him Big Brother. Tears streamed down his face as he repeatedly apologized. Then he knelt before Old Chen and admitted he had failed to discipline his subordinates. Murong Xue stood there, completely stunned. She could not understand how the situation had reversed so quickly. Old Chen calmly reminded him that he was not the one who deserved the apology. The person who should receive it was Lu Wuwei, which instantly terrified the chairman. He hurriedly looked in the indicated direction. Seeing Lu Wuwei sitting there calmly, he immediately understood. Old Chen nodded and confirmed his guess. The chairman instantly panicked and addressed him as Lord. He repeatedly kowtowed and begged for mercy on behalf of the Old Gate Chamber of Commerce. Murong Xue whispered in confusion, unable to believe a chef could make the chairman kneel. Old Chen calmly explained that he was indeed a chef, but also a member of the Great Snow Dragon Banner. Only then did Murong Xue realize Old Chen's true identity. It turned out he was the man behind the 9 Gates Chamber of Commerce. Outside, the sky remained clear, as if nothing had happened. Inside, pressure filled every corner of the room. Old Chen stepped forward, bowed deeply, and quietly asked whether the Lord was satisfied. Murong Xue watched with endless questions in her mind about Lu Wuwei's true identity. She began studying him more carefully and suspected he was hiding another status. The chairman of the 9 Gates Chamber of Commerce still knelt on the floor, shaking uncontrollably. Fear left him unable to speak properly. Lu Wuwei finally spoke and simply told him to stand up. He slowly walked forward, each step carrying immense pressure. After assessing the situation, he decided to let it pass this once. But he immediately returned to the main issue. Every debt must still be repaid in full. He pointed directly at Zhao Jinshan and repeated the 10 million figure. Next came Fan Shiyi and the entire Hongxing group. Finally, the fat man's debt was fixed at 200 million, without a cent missing. The fat man looked as if he had been struck by lightning. In panic, he turned to the chairman for help. The chairman coldly ordered everyone to follow the Lord's instructions. Then he angrily demanded to know where Chen Fei was and ordered him brought back immediately. A guard nervously reported that the young master had gone to Wanyu Hotel earlier. He hesitantly added that Chen Fei was there to meet Song Group's female CEO. Hearing this, Lu Wuwei slammed his hand onto the table. Killing intent burst from him as he coldly declared that man was courting death. The scene shifted to Wanyu Hotel. A luxurious presidential suite sat at the very top of the hotel. Song Meiqiao sat curled up on the bed, clearly uneasy. A teasing voice praised her as Jiang Cheng's #1 beauty, making her look up at once. The man held a recording device in his hand, giving off a dangerous vibe. Chen Fei stared at her with a sinister grin, making Song Meiqiao call out his name in fear. Trembling, she asked what he intended to do. Chen Fei twisted his lips into a creepy smile. He shoved her onto the bed and openly revealed his intentions. Zhao Ke stood in the corner, holding a camera, awkwardly watching after being called there. He did not dare speak, and simply recorded everything. Chen Fei barked a warning that any mistake would be punished, forcing Zhao Ke to stay silent. Song Meiqiao hugged herself and reminded him that she was married. Chen Fei only seemed more excited and claimed he especially liked married women. While touching her face, he threatened her with Song Group's debts and forced her to choose. He moved even closer until almost no distance remained between them. Then he continued humiliating her with disgusting remarks. Even Zhao Ke's expression began to change as he watched. Chen Fei kept pressuring her, saying Song Group would be finished if she refused. Unable to endure it, Song Meiqiao shoved him away. She rushed toward the door in an attempt to escape. Chen Fei exploded in anger and cursed her. Her hand touched the door, and freedom seemed within reach. But Chen Fei grabbed her hair and yanked her back, making her cry out in pain. Zhao Ke quickly aimed the camera at the struggle. Chen Fei raised a weapon and prepared to strike. At that exact moment, the door burst open. The attack accidentally hit Lu Wuwei, who had stepped in front of Song Meiqiao. She opened her eyes and saw the scene before her. Lu Wuwei stood in front of her and coldly called out Chen Fei's name. Chen Fei froze in shock when he saw him. Lu Wuwei's killing intent exploded, as if Chen Fei's fate was already sealed. The atmosphere instantly grew heavy as all eyes turned toward him. Chen Fei tightened his grip on the weapon and demanded to know why Lu Wuwei dared to appear. Lu Wuwei did not waste a single word and charged forward. One hand instantly locked around Chen Fei's throat. He lifted him off the ground with only one arm. Chen Fei's face turned red as he struggled to breathe. His body shook violently under the overwhelming pressure. Lu Wuwei coldly declared that not only did he dare to come, he also dared to kill him on the spot. Even while restrained, Chen Fei threatened that Song Group would be buried with him if he died. Song Meiqiao suddenly grabbed Lu Wuwei's arm and tried to stop him. Panicked, she yelled at him to stop immediately. She even accused him of pushing the Song family toward destruction. Lu Wuwei looked at her in confusion since she was defending Chen Fei after what had just happened. Her expression remained firm, without the slightest hesitation. Song Meiqiao immediately claimed everything had been voluntary. Lu Wuwei was stunned by how she twisted the truth. She continued denying their relationship and coldly told him not to call himself her husband. Zhao Ke trembled with the camera in hand and shouted straight for Lu Wuwei to stop before everyone got dragged into it. Lu Wuwei released Chen Fei's throat. Chen Fei dropped to the floor and nearly collapsed. Zhao Ke rushed over and asked if he was all right. Chen Fei immediately unleashed a stream of curses at Lu Wuwei. He shoved Zhao Ke away and refused to be touched. Then he arrogantly bragged about the old gate chamber of commerce's power in Jiangcheng. Pointing at Lu Wuwei, he swore to make him suffer a fate worse than death. But at that moment, Lu Wuwei grabbed his finger. Chen Fei panicked and screamed, asking what he was doing. Lu Wuwei answered only with a cold smile filled with killing intent. The next second, Chen Fei's finger snapped cleanly. His agonized scream echoed far beyond the hotel. Lu Wuwei released him and coldly asked what he could possibly do about it. Chen Fei looked at him as if he were a demon. Terrified, he backed away and begged Lu Wuwei not to come any closer. Song Meiqiao hurried over to check on Chen Fei. He immediately shoved her away and told her to get lost. In his rage, he blamed her for everything. Zhao Ke felt hopeless and said the Old Gate Chamber of Commerce would definitely seek revenge. It was still unclear who would be taking revenge on whom. Song Meiqiao suddenly slapped Lu Wuwei across the face. She called him a walking disaster. She blamed him for everything and said he had ruined the Song family. Then she grabbed his clothes and forced him to apologize to Chen Fei. Holding his injured hand, Chen Fei sneered that an apology was already too late. He threatened to unite major forces and completely destroy Song Group. Song Meiqiao immediately panicked. Chen Fei grinned viciously and declared the Song family was doomed. Lu Wuwei coldly replied that Chen Fei was not worthy of an apology. He stated that someone like Chen Fei did not deserve one from him. Chen Fei froze after hearing that. He instantly shouted for his men to come deal with Lu Wuwei. The suite door swung open, but the people who entered were Old Chen, Murong Shui, and the chairman of the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce. Chen Fei's eyes widened in shock. He immediately became excited, thinking his support had arrived. The chairman scolded him and said things would have become far worse if he had arrived any later. He angrily declared that Chen Fei was dragging the chamber into disaster. Chen Fei remained arrogant and claimed it was only a minor issue involving Song Group's CEO. Without another word, the chairman slapped him hard. He openly cursed him as a bastard. Holding his face, Chen Fei stared in disbelief and called out to his grandfather. He cried and demanded to know why he was being hit. The chairman immediately bowed to Song Meiqiao, apologized, and accepted any punishment for Chen Fei. Zhao Ke stood there speechless, unable to understand the sudden reversal. Song Meiqiao nervously insisted she had only come to collect Song Group's debt. Lu Wuwei let out a cold laugh. He said that punishment was still too light. Murong Shui nodded and remarked that it could be considered attempted coercion. Lu Wuwei turned to Old Chen, who immediately bowed respectfully and answered, "Lord." Lu Wuwei coldly ordered Chen Fei's limbs crippled and demanded he be expelled from Jiangcheng forever. Hearing this, Chen Fei laughed in contempt and mocked Lu Wuwei for thinking he had authority. Zhao Ke quickly stepped in and urged Lu Wuwei not to push things any further. He immediately changed his tone, pretended to be reasonable, and begged the chairman not to listen to Lu Wuwei. Old Chen snorted coldly, and the pressure in the room instantly intensified. He reminded the chairman that he should already know what needed to be done. The chairman hesitated and addressed Old Chen as Big Brother, clearly conflicted. After a long pause, he sighed and signaled his men to enter. He directly ordered Chen Fei's legs broken and sentenced him to the Antarctic prison for life. Chen Fei's smile vanished instantly. Sweating heavily, he asked if this was some kind of joke. 2 guards entered from outside, their cold presence making him even more terrified. As they approached, Chen Fei struggled and screamed, but it was useless. While being dragged away, he desperately begged and tried to use his family ties with the chairman. The chairman felt a moment of hesitation, but ultimately remained silent. Song Meiqiao was stunned that he would go so far against his own family. Lu Wuwei merely smirked and thought Chen Fei had brought it upon himself. The scene shifted to outside the Song family villa, where triumphant laughter echoed. Inside, Song Yuan laughed loudly, clearly in a great mood. He repeatedly praised his daughter for handling everything perfectly. Then he let out a relieved sigh. He remarked that the family would prosper quickly with such capable descendants. Ma Rong nodded in agreement. She was thrilled that they had recovered debts and gained enormous benefits. She even bragged that Hongxing had gifted its entire company as part of its apology. She turned to Song Yuan and wondered if those people had gone crazy. Song Meiqiao suddenly shook her head. Lu Wuwei looked slightly puzzled. She insisted that her contribution had been minimal and that Zhao Kong deserved the credit. Zhao Kong was startled, while Lu Wuwei smiled knowingly. She believed Zhao Kong had asked his father to contact the chairman of the Nine Gates Chamber of Commerce and solve everything. Zhao Ko stood up with an awkward smile as Lu Wuwei stared directly at him. He pretended to be friendly and said they would become family, sooner or later. That comment nearly made Lu Wuwei spit out his drink. In his eyes, this woman was far too naive to believe such ridiculous claims. Right then, Song Meiqiao called out to Lu Wuwei, and the whole room froze. She bluntly called him filthy. Murong Shui immediately took a towel and gently wiped him clean. She worriedly asked if he was hurt. Lu Wuwei shook his head and calmly said he was fine. Zhao Ke gave a faint smile and hinted that someone was unhappy. The two sides stared at each other as the tension soared. He confidently claimed everything he did was right and stressed that he had known Meiqiao for years. He even declared that he already saw her as family. Song Meiqiao seemed slightly moved by those words. Ma Rong suddenly lost her temper. She turned and blamed Lu Wuwei for ruining everything. Lu Wuwei pointed at himself, as if confirming she meant him. She brought up the old agreement, that if he failed to repay the debt, he had to divorce Meiqiao. Lu Wuwei let out a cold laugh, his eyes full of disdain. He firmly stated that divorce was impossible. Ma Rong instantly accused him of breaking his promise and questioned his character. Song Yuan quickly stepped in and asked everyone to let Lu Wuwei finish speaking. Ma Rong then blamed her husband for marrying their daughter to him in the first place. Song Yuan stayed silent under the scolding as the family descended into chaos. Song Meiqiao also directed all her anger at Lu Wuwei and blamed him for everything. Unable to hold back any longer, Lu Wuwei suddenly stood up in frustration. He turned toward Zhaoke, who was sitting comfortably, with obvious contempt in his eyes. He mocked him, saying people this shameless were truly rare. Lu Wuwei demanded to know the truth, but Zhaoke confidently took all the credit and bragged that his family could influence the Jiu-Men Chamber of Commerce. Hearing that, Ma Rong immediately flattered Zhaoke and praised him endlessly. Murong Shui remained doubtful because the Zhao family should not have that level of influence over the Jiu-Men Chamber of Commerce. Zhao Ke was struck at his weak spot and instantly lashed out at her. Murong Shui then turned to Song Meiqiao and gently suggested that Lu Wuwei might be the real person behind everything. Song Meiqiao froze for a moment and clearly did not believe it. Ma Rong immediately sneered and called the idea ridiculous. She mocked Lu Wuwei directly, saying he could never reach the Jiu-Men Chamber of Commerce, and even implied that Meiqiao was helping him hide Zhao Ke's credit. Seeing the situation favor him, Zhao Ke looked extremely pleased. Murong Shui still insisted that things were not as simple as they seemed. Outside the Song family villa, the blazing sunlight still covered the grounds. Inside, Lu Wuwei's expression turned ice cold. He called Song Meiqiao by name in a deep and displeased voice. Song Meiqiao reacted sharply and could not understand why he was speaking that way. Lu Wuwei coldly reminded her that when Chen Xiao tried to cause trouble, Zhao Ke had been standing nearby recording everything. Zhao Ke immediately panicked when he heard that. He hurriedly hid the camera as if afraid of being exposed. Seeing that, Lu Wuwei became even more certain that the whole thing had been staged. Zhao Ke stammered out excuses and tried to pass it off as a delaying tactic. Song Meiqiao still sided with him and insisted she was not being deceived by Lu Wuwei. She looked at Zhao Ke with trust, and he quickly nodded in agreement. Song Meiqiao continued, saying that without Zhao Ke, she would have been in danger, and that Heng Xing's assets should belong to the Zhao family. Zhao Qi was stunned by her statement. Lu Wuwei stood nearby and silently watched without showing any emotion. Zhao Ke immediately asked again in disbelief, wanting to confirm it was true. Murong Shui quickly objected and tried to stop the situation from escalating. She stressed that the Song family's assets could not be handed away so casually. Ma Rong agreed and regretted seeing such a huge fortune given to outsiders. Zhao Ke stood up and began putting on a serious act. He claimed that his family had spent heavily to connect the Song family with the Jiu-Men Chamber of Commerce. After hearing it all, Lu Wuwei only sneered inwardly at the obvious performance. At that moment, he suddenly called out Zhao Ke's name, startling him. Lu Wuwei mocked him for claiming to be close to Song Meiqiao, while still counting every penny. Song Meiqiao looked over, while Zhao Ke started sweating and could not find a response. He turned away and rambled in circles to hide his panic. Zhao Ke coughed a few times and pretended to regain his composure. Then he continued praising his family's contributions and claimed they played a key role in expanding connections. Song Meiqiao firmly objected and insisted that without Zhao Ke, she would never have returned safely. Standing behind her, Murong Shui grew worried and felt that Song Meiqiao was being overly influenced by his words. Ma Rong immediately changed her attitude, supported Zhao Ke again, and pushed for the engagement. Lu Wuwei raised his hand, wanting to make something clear. He openly opposed every decision being made. Ma Rong instantly grew annoyed and told him to put his hand down and stay quiet. Lu Wuwei fired back in frustration and questioned her reasoning. He stressed that what he had earned, through great effort, could not be casually handed to outsiders. Song Meiqiao angrily shouted at Lu Wuwei and accused him of still putting on an act. She insisted that all the credit belonged to Zhao Ke and that he had no right to deny it. Seeing Meiqiao fully support him, Zhao Ke became even more arrogant. In her anger, Song Meiqiao even declared that she wanted a divorce immediately. Song Yuan quickly stepped in and tried to keep the peace, saying that a man's pride was normal. He urged Lu Wuwei not to be stubborn and promised not to let the marriage fall apart. Song Meiqiao became even more upset, tears filling her eyes as she said she could not stay in the same house as Lu Wuwei. In front of everyone, she decisively grabbed Zhao Ke's arm. She invited him to leave with her, as a gesture of thanks, and to discuss things privately. Before leaving, Zhao Ke looked back at Lu Wuwei with a provocative grin. Song Meiqiao also turned around and warned him not to follow them. Lu Wuwei stayed silent, his gaze darkening as he no longer wished to argue. Murong Xue watched them leave and could only sigh at Song Meiqiao's blindness. She shook her head and felt that the real mastermind was obvious, yet no one noticed. Murong Xue began making plans of her own and decided not to let this opportunity slip away. The scene shifted outside the Song family villa. Lu Wuwei was slowly walking down the corridor. Suddenly, someone ran up from behind, wrapped their arms around him, and called his name. Lu Wuwei instantly became alert, his eyes turning sharp as he went on guard. He reflexively grabbed the person's arm, causing them to cry out in panic. After being gently pushed away, the person quickly explained that it was Murong Xue. Realizing who it was, Lu Wuwei looked surprised and asked why she was here. He immediately let go and kept his distance. Murong Xue blushed and softly called his name with visible hesitation. Then she suddenly asked him to be her boyfriend. Lu Wuwei froze for several seconds, completely caught off guard. Once he understood, he panicked, blushed, and broke into a sweat, asking whether she was serious or joking. He immediately refused, reminding her that he was Song Meiqiao's husband and that she was Meiqiao's best friend. Murong Xue refused to give up and said it only needed to be for one day, even claiming that Song Meiqiao had approved it, leaving Lu Wuwei stunned. She continued using her family situation and her grandfather's illness as reasons, even begging him to help with the act. At that point, she burst into tears and kept pleading, putting Lu Wuwei in an extremely awkward position. He firmly turned away and refused, telling her to find someone else. But Murong Xue kept pleading gently, making him even more uncomfortable. The scene shifted to the Murong family estate. Inside a room, an old man sat in a wheelchair as sunlight streamed through the quiet space. A sudden voice called out, causing him to look up in surprise. Murong Xue entered with Lu Wuwei and happily greeted him. The old man smiled at his granddaughter, then looked at Lu Wuwei with curiosity. Murong Xue introduced Lu Wuwei as her boyfriend, and he politely greeted the old man. The old man narrowed his eyes and felt that both the name and face seemed familiar. Those words made Lu Wuwei pause in surprise. He then smiled, feeling a sense of astonishment, as if they might have met before. Unlike him, Murong Xue turned pale, sensing that things were drifting far from her plan. She glanced at Lu Wuwei and saw him smiling calmly, making her suspicious. She wondered if his infamous reputation had spread so far that even her grandfather had heard of him. Seeing his relaxed attitude only annoyed her more, as everything seemed ready to collapse, while he remained completely calm. Suddenly, the sound of high heels echoed from outside the door and drew everyone's attention. Lu Wuwei immediately turned toward the sound. Nanggong Qiu entered with two companions and announced that she had brought a famous Dr. Lin to see old General Murong, leaving both the old man and Lu Wuwei slightly stunned. The old general nodded gently and thanked Nanggong Qiu for her concern. Then he turned to Lu Wuwei and frankly said that aside from that one person, no one could cure him, so he could only leave it to fate in Jiangcheng. Lu Wuwei fell silent for a moment as if he wanted to say something but held back. Nanggong Qiu remained polite and reminded him that a former member of the Great Snow Dragon banner should not give up so easily. Murong Xue quickly stepped forward and softly urged her grandfather to give it a try. Just then, another set of footsteps echoed through the room. The person brought by Nanggong Qiu was Lin Jiqin, who bowed and requested permission to treat the old general. At that moment, Lu Wuwei suddenly spoke with a mocking tone. He looked straight at Nanggong Qiu and said, "The man she brought could not cure this illness." The other two immediately froze when they saw him and showed clear surprise. Ni Xiaolong instantly switched to a mocking tone and sneered at his appearance here. Outside the Murong estate, the tense atmosphere continued. Ni Xiaolong kept expressing her contempt toward Lu Wuwei. Hearing that, the old general frowned and asked who this person was. Murong Xue quickly introduced Lu Wuwei as her boyfriend. Nanggong Qiu was instantly stunned and could not believe what she heard. She then added that Lu Wuwei was actually the son-in-law of the Song family in Jiangcheng. Upon hearing that, the old general's face darkened, and he assumed Lu Wuwei was flirting around outside his marriage. Lu Wuwei remained calm and showed no reaction. The old general turned to Murong Xue for confirmation, catching her off guard. Murong Xue tried to explain, but her words lacked confidence. In the end, she had no choice but to admit that Lu Wu Wei was invited to play the role. The old general slammed the armrest of his wheelchair and shouted in anger. He scolded them for treating marriage like a joke and criticized Murong Xue for choosing a married man. Ni Xiaolong immediately stepped in and respectfully added fuel to the fire. She repeated the rumors about Lu Wu Wei, calling him a disgrace in the capital with a lowly background. Seeing him stay silent, she continued provoking him. Lu Wu Wei merely sighed and replied that an honest man did not need to prove himself. His calm attitude only made Ni Xiaolong even angrier. She immediately suggested that the old general throw Lu Wu Wei out. Murong Xue quickly stopped her and protested in panic. She insisted that Lu Wu Wei was her guest, while the old general quietly observed. The old general closed his eyes and thought for a long moment. In the end, he decided to watch how Lu Wu Wei handled the situation. Lin Jiqin cleared his throat, drew everyone's attention, and stepped forward. He pointed at Lu Wu Wei and mocked his claim that the illness could not be cured. Lu Wu Wei calmly confirmed it without hesitation. Lin Jiqin's expression turned cold as he sneered and asked whether Lu Wu Wei could cure it himself. Lu Wu Wei looked directly at him and explained that the old general's condition was extremely complicated. He bluntly stated that Lin Jiqin lacked the skill to interfere at all, instantly enraging him. Ni Xiaolong immediately jumped in and demanded that Lu Wu Wei apologize to Dr. Lin at once. Lu Wu Wei turned to Nangongqiu and coldly told her to control her people and stop them from barking nonsense. Nangongqiu showed clear displeasure and demanded that he respect the guest she had invited, stressing that Dr. Lin only came out of respect for her. Hearing himself praised, Lin Jiqin became even more arrogant and enjoyed the admiration. Nangongqiu continued explaining to the old general that Dr. Lin agreed to come only because the patient was him. The old general's expression softened, while Lin Jiqin immediately acted modest. He began speaking grandly, treating the cure as a great favor. Standing nearby, Murong Xue felt hopeful that her grandfather might finally be saved. Lu Wu Wei shook his head and calmly said that Lin Jiqin was putting himself in a difficult position because true medical ethics should never depend on a patient's status. Lin Jiqin looked even more displeased after hearing that. Lu Wu Wei continued mocking him, saying that any doctor who chose patients based on status was a fraud. He coldly concluded that such people only used their reputation for personal gain. Lin Jiqin trembled with rage and gritted his teeth as he called out Lu Wu Wei's name. He claimed that Lu Wu Wei was nothing more than an arrogant fool who knew nothing of the world. He even declared that Lu Wu Wei would be thoroughly humiliated today. Lu Wu Wei remained seated calmly with a faint smile, not taking him seriously at all. That attitude only fueled Lin Jiqin's anger, and he demanded that Lu Wu Wei apologize if he lost. Lu Wu Wei agreed without hesitation. Even old General Murong was slightly surprised by his unusual confidence. Lu Wu Wei immediately asked what would happen if Lin Jiqin failed to cure the illness. Lin Jiqin proudly thumped his chest and claimed that over 40 years of medical experience was enough to handle any disease. Lu Wu Wei pressed the issue and demanded that he sign a written guarantee in front of the old general. Those words made Lin Jiqin pause and grow uneasy. Lu Wu Wei stood up, stepped closer, and mocked him for lacking the courage to even sign a guarantee. Lin Jiqin was so enraged that he could barely keep his composure. Ni Xiaolong quickly stepped in, praised Dr. Lin, and accused Lu Wu Wei of causing trouble. Despite the flattery, Lin Jiqin remained furious, his eyes filled with hostility. In the end, he accepted and demanded that paper and a pen be brought over. Before long, the guarantee document was completed. Holding the paper, Lin Jiqin sneered confidently and waited to see Lu Wu Wei embarrassed. Murong Xue hurried over to Lu Wu Wei and called out to him worriedly. She quietly asked if he was being too reckless, because this clearly looked like trouble. Deep down, she knew just how famous Lin Jiqin was in the medical world. Lu Wu Wei calmly replied that the old general's condition could not be cured through ordinary medicine, no matter how advanced it was. Lin Jiqin raised the guarantee in front of everyone and loudly declared that the outcome was already decided. Lu Wu Wei simply clapped a few times and calmly told him to proceed with the treatment. Lin Jiqin pointed directly at him and vowed that he would soon pay the price. At that moment, someone respectfully stepped forward and saluted old General Murong. Nangongqiu stepped up and made a request related to her former identity in the Great Snow Dragon banner. She hoped that if Dr. Lin cured the illness, the old general would recommend her to meet the great Xia sword master. Old General Murong nodded and said he had already heard about her situation. He stated that if she truly cured him, he would personally petition the emperor, though it was the emperor who had originally introduced her to the great Xia sword master. Everything went exactly as planned, and excitement immediately appeared on her face. She quickly bowed and thanked the senior general. Then she turned and respectfully greeted Ji Qian and Dr. Lin, saying the rest depended on them. Dr. Lin finally began the treatment and prepared to use acupuncture. In moments, a complete set of 8 silver needles was brought over. Before starting, Ji Qian still acted like a grand master and told the young man to watch carefully. He proudly introduced his signature technique, the 18 soul-chasing needles. Nangongqiu also chimed in and praised it as a famous southern acupuncture art. A strange purple aura seemed to surge around Ji Qian, as though it could snatch lives back from death itself. He carefully prepared another needle, moving with even greater caution. Before proceeding, he respectfully asked old General Morong for permission. Then he tapped a point on the patient's thigh to locate the acupoint. The needle was immediately inserted with precision. Throughout the process, his expression remained extremely serious and focused. Ni Xiaolong even stepped forward to wipe the sweat from her master's forehead as the tension grew. Morong Xue watched in amazement and could not hide her surprise. Then Lin turned to ask Lu Wu Wei if he noticed anything, but he simply remained silent and observed. Ji Qian picked up another needle. He declared that one final needle would be enough to turn the old general's condition around. Hearing that, Morong Xue gradually became convinced and quickly expressed her gratitude. Ji Qian continued boasting and claimed this was the needle that would decide everything. Standing nearby, Lu Wu Wei felt the entire performance was nothing but a ridiculous farce. When the 5 needles were activated, a golden stream of energy began spreading through the patient's thigh. Old General Morong looked down at his leg as a strange sensation emerged. Ji Qian immediately became smug and declared that the treatment was working. Watching from the side, Morong Xue finally relaxed and believed the method had taken effect. Old General Morong began sweating as he tried to feel any changes in his leg. After a while, Ji Qian asked about his condition and wanted to know how he felt. But the answer was blunt. Other than some numbness, nothing had changed, and he even muttered a few confusing remarks. Hearing that, Lu Wu Wei could not help laughing and mocked him for being all talk in the end. Morong Xue still tried to defend him, saying that at least there was some reaction. That response hit Ji Qian like a bucket of cold water, leaving him speechless. Morong Xue grew even more confused and scratched her head in bewilderment. Just then, footsteps could be heard approaching from afar. Qin Tianbao arrived with a Western doctor and immediately mocked traditional medicine as a scam before warmly calling out to Shuir. He looked at Morong Xue with obvious intentions and spoke as if they were close. Morong Xue instantly became annoyed and demanded to know why he was here. Seeing this, old General Morong reminded her to be polite to young Master Qin. Morong Xue turned away in frustration, clearly unconvinced. Qin Tianbao began introducing the doctor, saying he had invited a Western medical expert who had studied abroad for 10 years. He looked extremely confident and claimed the doctor could definitely cure the illness. He even pointed at Ji Qian and mocked traditional medicine as nonsense, leaving him stunned. Provoked beyond his limit, Ji Qian coughed up blood in anger. Ni Xiaolong quickly supported him and asked about his condition, while he insisted he was fine. Old General Morong also spoke up, saying Western medicine was not necessarily superior, and neither side had proven anything yet. Then he waved his hand and asked young Master Qin to leave. Qin Tianbao stubbornly continued persuading him, insisting that results could only be known after trying. Too exhausted to argue further, old General Morong sighed and finally agreed. The moment he got the chance, Qin Tianbao moved closer to Morong Xue and declared that if the treatment succeeded, he would propose to the Morong family upon returning to the capital. Seeing him get too close, Morong Xue immediately stepped back. Before walking away, she firmly warned him that she would never marry him, even if he came from one of the 5 great families. Qin Tianbao's smile twisted as he threatened her, warning that she would regret it if she refused him. Watching the scene, Lu Wu Wei frowned and muttered in disgust that it was truly revolting. Not wanting to waste more time, Qin Tianbao signaled for the Western doctor to begin immediately. The doctor quickly nodded and showed that he was ready. He approached old General Morong and asked him to lift his shirt for an examination. The old man hesitated, but did not object. Off to the side, Qin Tianbao looked completely confident, as if everything was under his control. The doctor opened the equipment case he had brought. Inside was a modern treatment system filled with medical devices. Holding several wires, he explained that it was advanced foreign electrical stimulation technology. Seeing the unfamiliar equipment, old General Murong showed clear caution and concern. The doctor continued explaining that electric currents would stimulate the muscles and blood vessels to improve his condition. Hearing that, Lu Wuwei immediately lost patience and dismissed it as complete nonsense. Qin Tianbao instantly became furious and demanded to know who Lu Wuwei thought he was. At that moment, Murong Xue suddenly grabbed Lu Wufei's hand and introduced him as her boyfriend, freezing the atmosphere. Qin Tianbao was stunned and repeated the words in disbelief. He immediately switched to threats, declaring that Murong Xue was already his target and warning Lu Wuwei not to dream of taking her away. But Lu Wuwei remained unfazed and coldly challenged him to see what would happen if he tried. Just as tensions peaked, old General Murong slammed the armrest of his wheelchair, drawing everyone's attention. In a stern voice, he reminded them that he was still present and not to treat him as invisible. He then signaled the doctor to continue and allowed the treatment to proceed. Lu Wuwei stared at the machine, his expression darkening as he sensed deadly danger rather than treatment. Hearing that, Murong Xue panicked and quickly asked if it was really that serious. Qin Tianbao immediately fired back, accusing Lu Wuwei of spreading nonsense and insulting the doctor. He continued boasting about the doctor's reputation and claimed he was one of the best in the country. Old General Murong fell into deep thought, his gaze heavy with hesitation. Lu Wuwei seized the moment and reminded everyone of the long-standing ties between the two families, while bringing up the failures of the man who had been boasting earlier. He turned to Nanggong Qiu and asked directly to confirm his claim. Nanggong Qiu immediately froze up, sweating heavily and unable to answer. Ni Xiaolong tried to defend her, but was cut off the moment she spoke. In the end, General Murong spoke up and agreed to try the Western treatment. Rong Xue called out to him anxiously, her voice filled with worry. But the old general had already made up his mind. 2 electric pads were quickly attached to his legs. The doctor wasted no time and activated the machine. The current surged through him, making his body convulse, as painful screams filled the room. Rong Xue rushed forward in panic and called out to him in fear. Qin Tianbao watched with a growing smile, certain of victory. Nanggong Qiu's group stayed silent and waited for the outcome. When the session ended, the doctor told the old man to stand and test the results. General Murong trembled as he struggled to rise. But the next moment, he actually stood up and claimed he was cured. Qi Qian was stunned and could not believe what he saw. He painfully admitted it felt like his faith in traditional medicine was being crushed. Wu Wei calmly started counting down and said only 10 seconds remained. Qin Tianbao angrily shouted that Wu Wei was sabotaging everything. He rushed to Rong Xue and kept boasting while promising to propose after the cure. Wu Wei remained calm and coldly announced that time was up. The moment he finished speaking, General Murong's eyes widened in shock. Then he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood before everyone. His body collapsed to the ground without warning. Rong Xue ran toward him while desperately calling his name. Outside the building, everything was strangely quiet. Inside, Rong Zhu's terrified cries echoed through the chaos. Rong Xue dropped to her knees beside him and called out repeatedly with a trembling voice. No matter how much she called, he showed no response, and she could only beg him not to leave. Nanggong Qiu stepped forward and coldly blamed Qin Tianbao for what happened. Qin Tianbao instantly panicked and hurriedly denied every accusation. He turned the blame onto Nanggong Qiu and claimed she was framing him. He even dragged Qi Qian into it and hinted that the miracle doctor was the real cause. Nanggong Qiu was left speechless while Qi Qian began trembling in fear. He grabbed his head and kept repeating that everything was over. Qi Qian finally collapsed onto the floor, fully aware of the disaster he caused. Rong Xue could only cry and ignored the arguments around her. She looked at Wu Wei and desperately begged him to save her grandfather. Wu Wei looked at the scene and fell into thought. After a brief hesitation, he stepped forward. He walked straight toward the unconscious old man. Nanggong Qiu immediately blocked his path and demanded to know his intentions. Even now, she still doubted Wu Wei's medical skills. Wu Wei gave her a cold glance and offered no explanation. Then, he pushed her aside and told her to move. The shove sent Nanggong Qiu stumbling backward. Ni Xiaolong quickly caught her and called out in concern. Nanggong Qiu steadied herself and said she was fine. Ni Xiaolong could not hold back and drew her sword in anger. She loudly warned Wu Wei, making the tension even worse. Wu Wei stared back coldly and mocked them as ignorant fools. Nanggong Qiu immediately stopped Ni Xiaolong from escalating the conflict. Wu Wei finally reached the old man and examined him. Without another word, he lifted the old man and checked his pulse. Rong Shu anxiously kept asking about her grandfather's condition. Wu Wei stayed silent and focused on the examination. Then he firmly declared that the old man was not dead and could still be saved. A faint purple aura appeared around his hand as he touched the old man's neck. He used a special technique and traced a strange line across the patient's back. Qin Tianbao stood nearby and laughed with contempt. He threatened Wu Wei and said failure would cost him his life. Nongongchu immediately shouted him down, leaving him speechless. Wu Wei gathered more force and struck the old man's back with a palm. The old man immediately spat out another mouthful of blood, shocking everyone. But this time his body twitched, and he suddenly started coughing again. Rong Shui burst into tears of relief and quickly called out to him. She helped him sit up as he asked what had happened. When he realized he could stand again, he was stunned that the illness was gone. Rong Shui immediately told him that Wu Wei was the one who saved him. Outside the building, sunlight suddenly broke through, contrasting the chaos inside. Hearing that, the old man froze and stared at Wu Wei in disbelief. He still could not believe it, and asked again for confirmation. Qin Tianbao quickly stepped in and pretended to care about the old man's condition, but his face was filled with confusion and disbelief. The old man coldly questioned Qin Tianbao, leaving him speechless. He fumbled for an excuse but found none. Rong Shui exploded in anger and scolded Qin Tianbao for nearly killing her grandfather. Unable to handle the pressure, Qin Tianbao turned away in frustration. Qin Tianbao left the scene and dragged the Western doctor away with him. Just then, sudden applause echoed through the tense room. Qi Qian suddenly brightened up and called on Nongongchu to back him up. He shamelessly claimed all the credit, saying his acupuncture was the real reason for the recovery, while dismissing Wu Wei as lucky. The moment he finished speaking, Wu Wei's gaze turned icy. Nongongchu also questioned him and demanded actual proof. Wu Wei let out a mocking laugh and called him ignorant and shameless. Ni Xiaolong immediately stepped in to defend Qi Qian and belittle Wu Wei. Her words made Wu Wei even more displeased as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Ni Xiaolong pushed further and mocked Wu Wei as nothing more than a lucky fraud. She worshipped Qi Qian and insisted all the credit belonged to his acupuncture technique. Rong Shui looked at them with frustration and disbelief. She firmly declared that Lu Wu Wei was the one who truly saved her grandfather. General Murong quietly recalled that his illness came from a Bayman true energy injury years ago. He remembered the ruler saying only the great Xia sword master's true energy could suppress it. A sudden thought flashed through his mind. He carefully studied Wu Wei as an unbelievable guess formed. He even suspected that Wu Wei was the current great Xia sword master. But the idea felt contradictory, since Wu Wei appeared so ordinary. Nongongchu turned to Wu Wei with doubt and contempt in her eyes. She mocked him again and said a truly capable person would not have stood aside from the start. Wu Wei smirked and replied with just one sentence, "Because I wanted to." General Murong slowly stepped forward. He cupped his hands and formally thanked the Nongong war god before Rong Shui. Keeping his promise, he said he would immediately enter the capital and recommend Nongongchu to meet the great Xia sword master. Nongongchu could not hide her excitement. She quickly expressed her gratitude with great joy. Rong Shui pouted and complained that even her grandfather would not believe her. General Murong understood that Wu Wei likely had his own reasons for hiding his identity. He gently patted Rong Su's head and told her to let the matter go. Rong Shui turned away, still upset but saying nothing more. Then she walked up to Wu Wei and said she would believe him, no matter what others thought. She grabbed his hand and invited him to a newly opened bar in the city. Wu Wei looked at her, his expression softening into a faint smile. In the end, he nodded and agreed to go with her. The scene shifted to a busy street packed with traffic. The two walked casually through the crowd. As they walked, Rong Shui told Wu Wei not to mind her grandfather's words. She was still annoyed and complained that old people could be terrible judges of character. Suddenly, Wu Wei's eyes narrowed as he noticed something. A man dressed in black appeared ahead of them. It was Chu Tianba. He was about to bow in greeting when Wu Wei raised a hand to stop him. Wu Wei had no interest in formal ceremonies. He signaled that none of that was necessary. Walking behind him, Rong Shui found the man familiar and curiously asked who he was. Wu Wei gave a subtle look, warning the other man to stay silent. He told Rong Shui to leave first because he needed to discuss something privately with Commander Chu. Rong Shui was confused and wondered why they had to separate. But she did not ask further and simply walked away after one last glance at Wu Wei. A strange feeling crossed her mind, as if she had seen Commander Chu somewhere before. The moment Rong Shui left, Chu Tianba dropped to one knee and respectfully greeted Swordmaster. He reported that news had arrived from the ruler. Bayman had been destroyed, and the greatest credit belonged to the man before him. Wu Wei remained calm without the slightest reaction. Chu Tianba continued, saying the ruler had ordered the 10 great families of Great Xia to host the dragon banquet in the capital to celebrate the achievement and honor the great snow dragon cavalry. At the same time, it would reveal the identity of the great Shiasist master to intimidate other forces across the world. Hearing this, Wu Wei's eyes darkened slightly as he sensed something unusual. Chu Tianba immediately became nervous and avoided his gaze, but Wu Wei's pressure forced him to answer. Wu Wei directly asked if someone was hiding ulterior motives. Chu Tianba quickly lowered his head and denied it. After trembling for a while, he finally admitted that the ruler hoped Wu Wei would give Nanggongqiu another chance. Wu Wei let out a cold laugh and said this matter had clearly been blown out of proportion. Chu Tianba added that the ruler also wanted Nanggongqiu to join the great snow dragon cavalry and admitted she was outstanding among the younger generation. That made Wu Wei pause briefly before rejecting the idea outright. He insisted she was not qualified yet and needed to improve both her skills and character first. Chu Tianba could only listen. He cautiously reminded Wu Wei that this was a direct order from the ruler. Wu Wei let out a long breath, clearly displeased. In the end, he gave in for the ruler's sake, but set a clear condition. He declared that Nanggongqiu could only serve as his sword attendant for 3 years, shocking Chu Tianba. Wu Wei stressed that anyone who could not learn proper conduct was unworthy of learning the sword. Half joking and half serious, Chu Tianba asked if she would only be a sword attendant. The question made Wu Wei frown as killing intent flashed in his eyes. He immediately struck Chu Tianba with a palm attack. In an instant, Chu Tianba was blasted backward and cried out in pain. He hurriedly knelt and begged for forgiveness, no longer daring to joke. Wu Wei lowered his hand, but his eyes remained ice cold. He stated that becoming the sword master's attendant was already a rare blessing that few could obtain. Chu Tianba quickly agreed. Still trembling, he added that without the ruler's request, Nanggongqiu would never have received this chance. Only then did Wu Wei nod and order that Nanggongqiu be added to the dragon banquet guest list. Chu Tianba sighed in relief and obeyed, adding that the family tied to the upcoming marriage would surely draw attention. Elsewhere, a bar sat in an unusually quiet atmosphere. Wu Wei and Rong Shui arrived at the place she had recommended, and she seemed quite excited. She happily said they had finally arrived, then became slightly awkward being there with Wu Wei. He asked why she found it strange. Just then, a familiar voice caught Wu Wei's attention. Behind them, Mei Qiao appeared with Zhao Ke, who proudly boasted that an important relative from the capital was about to arrive. He continued bragging that the person was a favored heir of a major family, whose father served in the great snow dragon cavalry, which greatly impressed Mei Qiao. Taking the opportunity, Zhao Ke casually wrapped an arm around Mei Qiao's shoulder. He exaggerated further, claiming her family's future would completely change because of this connection. Mei Qiao blushed and thanked him, making Zhao Ke even more smug. At that moment, she suddenly spotted Wu Wei and Rong Shui ahead and froze. Her expression immediately changed as she questioned why Wu Wei was there with Rong Shui. Before anyone could answer, Zhao Ke started making wild assumptions and looked at them suspiciously. He sneered and pointed at them as if he had uncovered a secret they were trying to hide. Just as he was about to throw out more insults, he stopped himself and held back. Rong Shui immediately got angry and stepped forward to explain that she and Wu Wei were completely innocent. Wu Wei calmly replied with a hint of sarcasm, saying there was no need to waste words on irrelevant people. Zhao Ke froze for a moment and pointed at himself, unable to believe he was being called an outsider. Seeing that, Wu Wei innocently asked what position young Master Zhao thought he held in this matter. He pressed further and directly asked what role Zhao Ke had in his marriage with Mei Qiao. The question hit a nerve, leaving Zhao Ke speechless. Wu Wei pushed even harder, wearing a cold smile as if turning Zhao Ke into a suspicious intruder. Seeing Zhao Ke cornered, Mei Qiao quickly stepped in to fight back. She firmly claimed that Zhao Ke had always treated her sincerely and honorably. Then she attacked Wu Wei, accusing him of dragging Rong Shui into the matter out of spite. Rong Shui immediately waved her hands and denied having any special relationship with Wu Wei. Wu Wei instantly fired back and asked why she could drink with other men while he could not. Mei Qiao arrogantly reminded Rong Shui that she would eventually get divorced anyway. She also warned Rong Xue not to be fooled by Wu Wei because of his bad reputation in the capital. Rong Xue found herself caught in an awkward position. In the end, she still sided with Wu Wei and suggested Mei Qiao might be misunderstanding him. Another man suddenly joined in and mocked Wu Wei as a useless nobody seeking attention. He stepped forward and advised Rong Xue to stay away from Wu Wei, but Rong Xue immediately shut him down and refused to listen. Seeing things were not going her way, Mei Qiao decided to leave and said she had to meet young Master Gao. Before leaving, she still looked annoyed and told everyone to stop wasting time arguing. Qiao Ke quickly followed her, leaving Wu Wei and Rong Xue behind. Inside the bar, a table of drinks had already been prepared. Rong Xue suddenly grabbed a bottle and took a huge gulp without caring about appearances. After drinking, she slammed the bottle onto the table, the sound echoing through the quiet room. She turned to Wu Wei and teased him, saying Mei Qiao clearly had no feelings for him. Then she bluntly suggested he should just get divorced. Looking excited, she confidently claimed she was a great catch herself. She even boldly promised that if he divorced, she would take him in immediately. Wu Wei quickly shot back and asked if she thought he was some freeloader. Caught red-handed, Rong Xue pouted awkwardly after being exposed so quickly. Then she suddenly pulled out a stack of cash and bragged about her secret savings. Elsewhere, a door was suddenly pushed open as someone loudly called Zhao Ke's name. A man walked in with a strange smile and asked if the top beauty of Jiangcheng had arrived yet. He looked drunk, and both his eyes and behavior were filled with barely hidden lust. He shouted Zhao Ke's name again, as if searching through the crowd. Clearly tipsy, he staggered around while rubbing his head. Both Wu Wei and Rong Xue turned their attention toward the newcomer. He looked around in confusion and wondered if he had entered the wrong place. But the moment his eyes landed on Rong Xue, he froze in shock. His gaze swept over her greedily before he started making shameless remarks. Turning to Wu Wei, he sneered and asked if the girl was someone he had ordered. Rong Xue immediately stepped back and hid behind Wu Wei. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick stack of cash. Boasting arrogantly, he casually offered 10,000 yuan as if it were nothing. He swallowed hard, his eyes never leaving Rong Xue. His face was red from alcohol as he shamelessly declared that she would belong to him tonight. He moved closer while speaking, as if giving an order. But just before he could touch her, a hand firmly grabbed his wrist. Wu Wei looked him in the eye and coldly warned him to leave before he lost patience. The man froze for a few seconds before bursting into laughter. He mockingly asked if the price simply was not high enough. Then he pulled out a black card and flaunted his wealth. He slammed the card onto the table and laughed confidently. The card held 30 million yuan, yet his eyes remained fixed on Rong Xue. He continued insulting them, claiming anything could be bought with enough money. Rong Xue could not endure it anymore and slapped him hard across the face. Furious, she shouted at him and called him an uneducated scumbag. Caught off guard, half his face turned red as he stood there stunned. Then he went crazy and grabbed Rong Xue by the hair. He roared while boasting about being a young master of the Gao family from the capital. Before he could do more, Wu Wei rushed forward and kicked him flying before pulling Rong Xue back. The man sprawled across the floor with a twisted face full of rage. Wu Wei looked down at him coldly, as if he were nothing but trash. Rong Xue hurriedly explained that he was Gao Kaishan, the only son of a powerful figure in the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. Wu Wei smirked and reminded her that she was the one who struck first. Rong Xue quickly said she had no idea his backing was so powerful. Wu Wei calmly reminded her that her grandfather was also a senior general of the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry. He added that old power meant little if it was never used. Rong Xue nearly cried as she explained that her grandfather never allowed his name to be used for trouble. Wu Wei's gaze softened slightly as he praised that kind of upbringing. Even after being beaten, Gao Kaishan sneered and vowed revenge. Rong Xue quickly ran over and bowed in apology, hoping to calm things down. She repeatedly begged for forgiveness. Gao Kaishan jumped to his feet, shaking with anger. He let out a cold laugh and declared that apologies were useless now. Then he pointed directly at Wu Wei. In a humiliating tone, he ordered Wu Wei to crawl over to him. Rong Xue was stunned by what she had just heard. Gao Kaishan then turned to Rong Xue and made an even more disgusting demand. He threatened serious consequences if they refused. A twisted grin spread across his face, filled with lust and malice. He stepped forward arrogantly, but Rong Xue immediately backed away. Her face turned pale as fear overwhelmed her. She hurried behind Wu Wei and begged for help. Wu Wei finally stopped holding back as killing intent surged from his cold red eyes. The man hesitated for a moment, after seeing that terrifying look. Hiding behind Wu Wei, Rong Shu nervously suggested finding Jiao Ke since he knew the other side. Gao Kaishan laughed mockingly at the mention of Jiao Ke. He bluntly stated that Jiao Ke was nothing more than his dog. Rong Shui suddenly remembered that Gao Kaishan's family had recently fallen into financial trouble. Wearing the same cunning expression, he twisted the story and claimed Jiao Ke had offered up the woman he liked in exchange for help. He stressed that the woman was Jiang Cheng's #1 beauty, while grinning in a sickening way. Wu Wei finally spoke and coldly concluded that Jiao Ke had brought ruin upon himself. Standing beside him, Rong Shui looked worried and could not believe Jiao Ke was that terrible. She unconsciously touched Wu Wei's hand and softly said she would talk sense into Mei Qiao later. She hoped Mei Qiao would see Jiao Ke's true colors and stop insisting on divorce. Just then, Gao Kaishan interrupted with a sneer and called Wu Wei Mei Qiao's useless husband. He threatened that if they refused his conditions, neither of them would leave the bar unharmed. At that moment, the killing intent around Wu Wei grew even stronger as his fists tightened. He raised his head and stared straight at the man, his gaze sharp as a blade and completely unwavering. The guy noticed that clenched fist and instantly lost his nerve, stammering as he asked what Lu Wu Wei was planning to do. Fear spread through his body as he tried to threaten them, but his confidence was clearly gone. Just as the tension reached its peak, the sound of high heels echoed from the entrance. A red-haired woman appeared and called out to young Master Gao with an imposing voice. She asked what was causing such a commotion in the bar. The newcomer was Xu Qing, and young Master Gao immediately greeted her with excitement. He quickly pointed at Lu Wu Wei and Rong Shui, claiming they attacked first despite knowing the rules here. Xu Qing followed his gesture and looked at the pair with curiosity. Rong Shui was stunned when she saw her, never expecting this bar to be managed by the Xu family's heiress from the imperial capital. Young Master Gao kept adding fuel to the fire, bragging that the Xu family was one of the top powers in the imperial capital, and even connected to the #1 Lu family. The more he spoke, the more arrogant he became, insisting the two had no way out today. Rong Shui fell into complete panic, cold sweat pouring down as only dark thoughts remained in her mind. Xu Qing pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and slowly brought it to her lips. She took a drag and swept a cold gaze across the crowd before suddenly smiling when she saw Lu Wu Wei. Standing beside her, young Master Gao curiously asked if she knew Lu Wu Wei. Xu Qing calmly replied that it was far more than simple acquaintance. Hearing that, Rong Shui felt a spark of hope and briefly relaxed. Xu Qing slowly walked toward Lu Wu Wei. As she walked, she smoked and deliberately blew the smoke straight at him. She coldly brought up the incident years ago, when Lu Wu Wei had laid hands on her. The entire place seemed to freeze. Rong Shui was speechless and felt the situation had become even worse. Lu Wu Wei suddenly smiled, his expression impossible to read. He looked directly at Xu Qing and reminded her how she had worked with his younger brother to frame him. His eyes turned icy as he declared it was finally time to settle that old debt. The already suffocating atmosphere in the bar became even more tense. Rong Shu nervously stepped closer and repeatedly asked Lu Wu Wei what he meant by being framed. She began to question the rumors surrounding his past. Confusion was written all over her face as cold sweat ran down her skin. Xu Qing burst into laughter at her reaction. Standing opposite him, she asked with contempt whether Lu Wu Wei had come here to settle scores. She then openly mocked him, saying someone like him had no right to challenge her. She brought up how he had been cast out by the Lu family and used it to push him further into a corner. Young Master Gao joined in, pointing straight at Lu Wu Wei and calling him a bastard and the shame of the capital. Xu Qing turned and asked young Master Gao for confirmation. She asked if Lu Wu Wei had really attacked first, and he immediately nodded. Hearing that, Xu Qing revealed a cold smile as if she had found the perfect excuse. Rong Shu nervously turned to Lu Wu Wei and asked what they should do next. He simply told her not to worry, because no one could touch him. Xu Qing continued mocking him, saying he was still arrogant even now. Lu Wu Wei shot her an icy glance and gave a brief reply, instantly angering Xu Qing. Xu Qing turned to young Master Gao and spoke in a cold, commanding tone. She directly asked how he wanted to deal with the people in front of him. The moment he heard that, young Master Gao realized he had a chance to get revenge for the slap, and his eyes lit up with malice. He pointed at Lu Wu Wei and demanded that he crawl between his legs like a coward. Not stopping there, he turned toward Rong Shui with lust and contempt in his eyes. He shamelessly demanded that she stay the night with him. Rong Shui exploded in anger and rushed forward, but Lu Wu Wei immediately stopped her. Furious, she revealed her identity, stating that she belonged to the Murong family and that her grandfather was General Murong, once part of the Great Snow Dragon banner. Young Master Gao laughed scornfully and said the Murong family in the capital was nothing special, while her grandfather's fame belonged to the past. His confidence never wavered, leaving Rong Shui even more unsettled, as she realized her family's reputation meant nothing here. He arrogantly continued, boasting that his father currently served in the Great Snow Dragon banner, so he feared no influence from the Murong family. Only then did Xu Qing shift her attention to Lu Wuwei and examine him closely. She sneered and mocked him, saying that after all these years, he was still a useless man hiding behind women. She bluntly stated that protecting someone like him was not worth it. Rong Shui stood beside them in shock, unsure how to react. Xu Qing linked arms with young Master Gao and warned Lu Wuwei to know his place and obey. Only then did Lu Wuwei speak, directly asking what gave her the right to order him around. Young Master Gao instantly exploded, pointing at him and shouting that he had no right to disrespect Miss Xu. Rong Shui grew even more anxious as she watched Lu Wuwei with worried eyes. At that moment, she suddenly grabbed his hand tightly. She pulled him back and tremblingly urged him to stop provoking them. Lu Wuwei gently patted her head, catching Rong Shui off guard and making her blush. He smiled and reassured her while quietly assessing the situation, and her panic slowly eased. Lu Wuwei's eyes suddenly changed and turned ice cold as he looked at the two of them. He fired a question back at young Master Gao, and the challenge in his tone made the man hesitate. Then he directly asked if his father was Gao Wuji, just a low-ranking officer in the Great Snow Dragon banner. As he stepped forward, he continued speaking in a calm yet oppressive tone. He declared that even if Gao Wuji were here, he would still kneel before him, instantly freezing the room. The tension inside the bar only continued to rise. Rong Shui looked at him with growing concern. She leaned closer and whispered, asking if he was trying to get himself killed. She even reminded him that his contact from the Qiaomen Chamber of Commerce was only a cook in the Great Snow Dragon banner. Young Master Gao stepped forward and tightly gripped a beer bottle, as if preparing to attack. He roared in rage and hurled vicious insults at Lu Wuwei. Raising the bottle, he demanded that Lu Wuwei repeat what he had just said. Lu Wuwei merely smiled, his calm attitude making the atmosphere even heavier. Standing with young Master Gao, Xu Qing continued provoking him, and claimed he still did not understand what the Great Snow Dragon banner truly was. Taking the opportunity, young Master Gao boasted that the Great Snow Dragon banner was the Sword Master's personal guard, and that each member could fight 100 enemies alone. He kept bragging about the organization's fame and strength to intimidate Lu Wuwei, but Lu Wuwei only smirked and showed no fear at all. He calmly replied that it would not change anything, whether he knew or not. He even repeated that Gao Wuji would eventually kneel before him, leaving the man stunned. Lu Wuwei's eyes suddenly became terrifying as killing intent spread from him. Young Master Gao could not take it anymore and roared in fury. He swung the beer bottle with all his strength. The bottle smashed directly against Lu Wuwei's head and shattered into pieces, yet he never tried to dodge. Behind him, Rong Shui cried out his name in panic after seeing him take the hit. Beer splashed across his body and ran down his face, but his eyes remained strangely calm without any sign of pain. Xu Qing shook her head in contempt, believing he had already reached a dead end. She immediately called for reinforcements. Then she pointed at Lu Wuwei and ordered them to drag him away and take him to the Gao family to apologize.